Government's Board of Zoning Appeals is now in session for its regularly scheduled meeting of October 5, 2017. My name is John Michael. I work with the Metro Codes Department, and I'll be making the presentation of each of the cases to the board today for their consideration. Here at the outset of the meeting, we would respectfully ask all of you to please turn off your phones, tablets, or any other electronic devices that might run the risk of making noise, just so that the board's proceedings will not be interrupted. Thank you in advance for your consideration on that point. In each of today's public hearings, the board will review the correspondence that's been submitted, whether in favor of or opposition to each of the cases. The board also reviews correspondence and recommendations from other government agencies in preparation for the hearings, and in some instances even input from elected officials. In today's hearings, the staff will present the site plans, maps, photographs, and any other documents that comprise the case record before the board. At the conclusion of the staff's presentation, the appellant will have the opportunity to present his or her case to the board. After the appellant's presentation, the board would hear from those wishing to speak in support of the case before the board. If the appeal has opposition, then the board would hear from those parties. After the opposition presents their testimony, the appellant will have a period of time for rebuttal. Under BZA rules, the appellant has 10 minutes for a presentation if there's no opposition present. On contested cases, both sides have 15 minutes to make the desired presentation to the board. Should the appellant wish to provide rebuttal testimony, the appellant should reserve some portion of that originally allotted 15 minutes. Of note, for those who wish to speak in groups, that's 15 shared minutes, not 15 each, so divide up your time accordingly in advance. At the conclusion of each hearing, the board will deliberate and then vote on that case. The board is vested with the power to act under these cases under the provisions of the Metro Zoning Code, specifically Section 17.40.180. All of the section numbers to which we refer today come from the Metro Zoning Code, which applies to the entire jurisdiction of the metropolitan government. The Zoning Code was adopted by the Metro Council and became effective on January 1st of 1998. I'll introduce the entire Zoning Code and make it part of today's record. The Metro Code requires a record of these proceedings. Because BZA meetings are recorded for public access television and later uploaded to YouTube as well, it is imperative that anyone wishing to come forward and address the board. Yes.
Public access television. Metro Nashville Network.
Metro Nashville Network, carefully and thoughtfully branded by the good folks in the metropolitan government, and we will acknowledge it accordingly.
Follow them on Facebook.
The way to make sure your voice is heard on said network is to come forward, sit at the table, turn on the microphone, and introduce yourself by name and address, then make the desired presentation. Otherwise, your input will not be part of the record. Again, all speakers should identify themselves by name and address in order to confirm your interest in the case, then make the desired presentation. The Metro Code also requires 4 of our 7 members in order to establish quorum. The code requires at least 4 affirmative votes in order to grant an appeal. In the event that only 4 members are present for a case and the appeal fails to receive 4 affirmative votes, the appeal will be re-advertised for the next available public hearing. In the event that 5 or more members are present and the appeal fails to receive 4 affirmative votes, the case will remain on the board's agenda for the next 30 days. Applications that fail to receive 4 affirmative votes within 30 days of the public hearing shall be deemed denied by operation of law. Pursuant to the BZA's board rules and regulations, an aggrieved party may appeal board decisions to the Chancery Court within 60 days of the hearing date. Additionally, an aggrieved party may file a motion for rehearing within 60 days of the original hearing date, pursuant to the terms of the BZA rules and regulations. After that time elapses, the board's decision becomes final, and no further action can be taken. For the appellants, if your appeal is granted, you are required to obtain the permit for which you applied. A permit must be obtained within 2 years for board approval to remain valid. It should also be noted that if any false or misleading testimony is presented to the board, any board approval could be revoked at a later date by means of a show cause hearing before the BZA. Mr. Chairman, I submit that all the cases have been filed in the proper order, all the appellants have been notified by certified mail, and all legal notice requirements have been fulfilled. A number of announcements with regard to deferrals from today's agenda before we move forward. I'll make sure I've got the list correct here. The following cases have been deferred to later dates. First, case number 205 involving the property at 312 Clark Hill Crossing, a short-term rental appeal, has been deferred to November the 2nd. Case 230 for property at 7435 Old Hickory Boulevard in the Whites Creek area, a sidewalk requirement appeal, deferred to November the 2nd. Case 246 involving the property at 300 Stewart's Ferry Pike a sidewalk requirement appeal, deferred one meeting to October the 19th. Case 262, involving the property at 4204 Hood Avenue, a street setback appeal, has been deferred to November the 2nd. Case 270, involving the property at 3501 Murfreesboro Pike, a variance from PC conditions requirements under 17.16 of the Metro Code, deferred one meeting to October 19th. Case 272, involving the property at 2000 West End Avenue, a parking variance, deferred two meetings to November the 2nd. Case 274, involving the property at 2926 Foster Creighton Drive, a sidewalk requirement appeal, deferred one meeting to October the 19th of 2017. Case 275, involving the property at 2720 Delaware Avenue, a height variance, deferred one meeting to October 19th. And finally, the scheduled show cause hearing involving Case 183 and the property at 5229 Earhart Road, a short-term rental appeal, has been deferred two meetings to November the 2nd, 2017.
Wow, is there anything left?
Plenty, Mr. Chairman. Those cases are deferred, will not be heard today, and instead heard on the dates identified in that series of announcements. Before moving forward to take any consideration of consent agenda, we'd like to use this opportunity to recognize the elected officials who are with us. I know I saw Councilmember Berkeley Allen in attendance, and I think no other council members at this time. Councilmember Allen, would you like to address the board? Very well.
Thank you.
Councilor Allen, thank you. Welcome to the BZA. We're sorry that we could not see you at your short-term rental subcommittee, but we had good attendance and they asked very good questions of us. Thank you
Excellent.
again for
Thank
the
you.
invitation.
I appreciate the invitation to speak, and I especially appreciate the time that you took to attend that. I understand it was a good conversation, and I am here once again on short-term rentals. Thank you for your service. I know this particular type of property is added to your caseload pretty heavily, so we are hopeful that we can make some changes so that it is not such of an issue. As you know, the council has been granted some extra time to try to continue to work on better ways to protect our neighborhood in a balanced way that we think we can sustain. To that end, a number of properties will be coming before you today, and just in general, I wanted to make a statement that may have been made on Wednesday, so if I'm being redundant, I apologize, but when we initially had this legislation before you, the regulations required that if someone operated without a permit, they were denied that permit for a year. And this body asked the council to give you discretion to deal with cases where you had significant reason to believe that they truly had operated in ignorance of the law. How anybody cannot know what the law is with all the publicity it's gotten is beyond me, but we offered you that discretion as you requested, and put in some pretty specific requirements in place to take into consideration as you looked at that, which was including the how to determine whether they truly hadn't known about needing a permit or not. And that included the testimony of the STRP operator, the testimony of neighbors or others with knowledge of the ST operator, evidence that the operator was informed of the requirement and disregarded this information, that would be continuing to operate, evidence that the operator had looked into requirements and misunderstood them, prior or repeat offenses by the operator under this section, and then whether the operator, upon being informed of the requirement, obtained or attempted to obtain the permit before renting the STRP again. So our intent with that very specific information was the hope that if someone was truly convincing that they truly had no idea, as soon as they found out they did not rent to anyone else again, that perhaps y'all could reduce that 1 year to something less onerous. The other piece of that intent was if there was reasonable doubt that they had known but thought maybe they could get away with it, that they were given the full 1 year. The point being to make a point that this is something we have offered as an option in neighborhoods perhaps more freely than we should have. We're trying to correct that, and we certainly don't want the people who have been operating without a permit, which is unfair not only to the neighborhood but to the operators who are obeying the rules from the beginning, in fairness to them, to make sure that that is fully applied. So I stand here before you simply to clarify when we created that discretion, to be clear what our intent was and our hope was. You're the body that makes the decisions, and we respect how you do that. But I think we never had the opportunity to actually sit down and say, here's kind of what we were thinking as we wrote it. So if that needs to be changed in the way that we wrote it, then we can talk about that at another point.
And we appreciate you being here, and obviously you're the legislative body. We really appreciate you giving us a little bit of leeway, but I wanted to ask you a question about something you just said. You said, if there's kind of a reasonable doubt if they knew or not, we should give them the full year. Is there something less than the full year? Because we get all these kind of cases, and you look at someone's situation, and they stopped and they pulled down their, future bookings. But so you really feel, I think to us, and I'll speak for myself, but the other people can chime in, a year is kind of for our worst offenders. I know what the law says, that basically everybody gets a year, but you could come here and appeal, and there are lots of people out here on our agenda today that will be doing that. But is there something between a year and nothing?
Certainly for the people who were informed that they needed a permit, they came in and said, I'm trying to get a permit, and code said to them, we're sorry, you can't get a permit now because of what the law says, and they can document that as soon as they found out, they ceased to rent, they have not rented anymore, and they don't rent until they get their permit. That would be one situation. I was here for an earlier hearing where Mr. John Michael had presented a case where it had been seen on the internet that they were still advertising. To me, that is the type of case where clearly they didn't get the message, and even once they got the message, they were not repentant, so to speak. I feel very strongly that we're trying to make a clear distinction between those people who are following the rules and those who are willfully not following the rules. So to me, that's where I would say I would tend to push those people toward the 1 year. If they were made aware and did not cease renting, to me that fits under that category of whether the operator, upon being informed of the requirement, obtained or attempted to obtain a permit before renting the STRP again. To me, those people, I understand you need the desire to give them discretion. If they stopped renting as soon as they found out they needed it. If there's evidence that they continued to rent while they were waiting to get their permit, to me, that shoves them toward the 1 year. I leave you with the discretion to decide what lands between those.
I have one more question of what kind of lands between. Possibly it's, let's say if you rely on a professional, a real estate professional, or a relative, or somebody else who's not the owner, and they drop the ball. What's your thoughts of that?
I believe that the way it's technically written, it's up to the responsibility of the owner to know what is needed. Yeah. I think professional real estate dealers should also know the rule, but it's not their responsibility to inform the operator, and the operator need to do their homework.
We had a real estate professional here a couple months ago that said that the site was hard to understand. Do you have any reaction to that?
I have worked on this site. We are not done, and we can certainly work to make it clearer to understand. And I know when you go to the websites to sign up, there is a link there to our regulations and to our site. I don't know that it's unclear that you don't need a permit. There are certainly other things that may not be clear.
Well, what I said, clearly we have thousands of people that have gone through the process and managed to register and get a permit.
Right.
I don't necessarily think it's unwieldy or someone can't use it.
Yeah, we are clearly continuing to work to improve this, and we will continue to have this dialogue. But I appreciate the opportunity to be able to clarify that. Yes, one other thing.
Okay.
And I also am handing out excerpts from the Metro Code with resident reference to the just to quote problem properties. There's a regulation that says all STRP occupants shall abide by the applicable noise restrictions and regulations regarding public peace and welfare, and just pulled one snippet out of the Section 11 that deals with public peace and welfare with regard to drunkenness, unlawful use of alcoholic beverages, and the possession of any obscene material or obscene conduct or entertainment. So just to have those pieces of information in front of you, that clearly is in the code, and it is clearly referenced from the short-term rental code. So I would like to, if I might, pass these out.
Yes, can you pass that? And
Certainly.
read that last sentence again of what you said.
So this is from section 11.12.060, disorderly house. It includes prostitution, gambling, and rowdiness, prohibited. No person who manages or controls any building, room, or enclosure, either as its owner, leasee, agent, or employee, shall allow or permit prostitution. We're not worried about that yet. We don't. Drunkenness, unlawful sale of alcoholic beverages, gambling, the sale, exhibition, or possession of any obscene material or any obscene conduct or entertainment, quarreling, fighting, rowdiness, or loud noise sufficient to constitute a breach of the peace.
Because
So-
disorderly house, that's a 19th century term that the newspapers used to use about
I'm sure that's
brothels,
probably when it came into our code.
brothels
but-
and gambling houses that, you'd be convicted of keeping a disorderly house.
Yes, there's another section on further rowdiness that's less appropriate. Nonetheless, this is what's in our code. To me, it seems pretty specific about some types of conduct that have been a problem in neighborhoods. And I feel very strongly that we owe it to the neighborhoods to see to it that that type of conduct is considered a violation, should that come up today. So that's on the backside.
Okay.
So I appreciate the opportunity to speak. And
Any other questions for the author of our short-term rental bill?
Well, I got lots of
I
co-authors.
just want to salute you and thank this council for a good bill. This town's growing like crazy, and I know a lot of people don't understand things, but everybody needs to keep up with what's going on.
We're trying.
Thank
We're continuing, and we're not done yet. It's certainly not perfect, but we're working on it. Thank you very much. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Council Lady Allen. John Michael.
Mr. Chairman, seeing no other council members or other elected officials present, we'll move on and make note of the fact that we will be utilizing a consent agenda today. Our board always utilizes a consent agenda whereby one board member reviews the record for each case prior to today's hearings and identifies cases where the appellants met the criteria for their requested action. If the reviewing board member determines that testimony in the case would not alter the material facts, then that case is recommended to the board for approval. We'll enter into the record those cases that have been so recommended for today's hearings, and if anyone is here in opposition to any of the cases identified for the consent agenda, just raise your hand. Make sure that I see you. That case will be removed from the consent agenda and then just heard in its regular order. All right, the cases identified for the consent agenda are as follows. First, case number 2017-224 involving the property at 3410 Granny White Pike, a sidewalk requirement variance. The recommendation for consent agenda is predicated upon following Planning Department's recommended solution as part of the decision. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 224? Seeing none, the next is case number 253 involving the property at 3846 Cross Creek Road, a sidewalk requirement case. Consent agenda recommendation is predicated on following Planning Department's recommended solution as the condition. Next, is there anyone here in opposition to case number 253? Seeing none, the next is case number 256, 131 West Express Drive, a sidewalk requirement variance. The proposal from the appellant is to build neither the sidewalk nor contribute to the fund and is recommended for the consent agenda. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 256? Seeing none, the next case is case 261 involving the property at 124 Apollo Court East. The request is for a rear setback variance. As the board will recall from a prior BZA case, this structure already exists and was previously approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals for a rear setback on a detached structure. However, the project has since changed. The proposal is now to build an attached structure, and therefore, technically, the rear setback would have to be approved by the board again. That request has been recommended for the consent agenda. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 261? Seeing none, the next recommended cases for the consent agenda, and I would recommend the board consider these together, case 268 and 269 involving the properties at 409 Merritt Avenue. The request is for a street setback variance on the two lots that comprise 409 Merritt Avenue. Is there anyone here in opposition to the street setback variance case 268 and 269 on Merritt Avenue? Seeing none, those will be so recommended. Finally, case number 271 involving the property at 1820C 16th Avenue North, a sidewalk requirement variance. The recommendation for planning agenda is predicated on planning's recommended solution being followed of point of clarification for our board, there had been some question about a proposed solicitation of a variance from the rate of payment into the sidewalk fund. That, of course, is never properly before the Board of Zoning Appeals, as it is uniquely the province of the Metro Public Works Department. So the only request before the board is for the sidewalk variance that would allow them to pay into the fund. That has been recommended for consent agenda. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 271? Seeing none, Mr. Chairman, the proposed consent agenda for the board's consideration involves case 224, case 253, case 256, case 261, cases 268 and 269, and case 271. We'd solicit a vote at this time.
Moving those cases to the consent agenda, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion of, the motion's been made and properly seconded. Discussion about the consent agenda.
I have a question first. Did you say that case 271 will pay the in lieu fee?
That's correct.
Okay. And then I would like to abstain from case 256. I didn't have time before the meeting to figure out whether or not I could support that on the consent agenda.
We'll make sure the record reflects that Ms. Carpenter is abstaining from any vote on case 256 as a portion of the consent agenda, but presumably the remainder of your vote will affect the other cases.
Okay, any other discussion about the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And one abstention from 256. The consent agenda passes.
For those who are here on the cases that were on the consent agenda, you're done. You have the approval that you have sought. Please give our staff until at least tomorrow to be able to come by and make application for your permit that you're seeking. Do remember that you're required to pick up the permit within 2 years, as that is the length of time that a Board of Zoning Appeals approval stands. With that, Mr. Chairman, I think we stand prepared to move into our first hearing. If I could take just a brief administrative break to help see a couple of people out who I know have questions.
Absolutely. John Michael, do I need to be like the umpire that comes out when the pitcher and the catcher are talking to each other and say, hey, we need to move this along? He's not listening.
Just call it the tone call that, then we can ready.
Okay, you're going to be umpire.
Good move.
First case to be presented to the board is 2017-160 involving the property at 3179 Earhart Road. I believe the representative for the case is Mr. Walker, the engineer on the project. The request is from New Beginnings International Ministry, the church that owns the property at the stated address, shown here on the zoning map. The request is for a special exception for religious use in a residentially zoned district, namely the RS-15 district, and also a variance from the newly enforced sidewalk requirements. The aerial view shown here gives you a sense of the layout of Earhart Road at this location. The pointed absence of sidewalks presently. Site plan submitted by the appellant gives a layout for their proposed development of the property, and a recent Google photo to show a little more of a street view at that location. Mr. Walker's present, I believe, on behalf of the appellant. If you'd come forward at this time to address the board. There's also opposition present, Mr. Chairman.
Right there. Have a seat, press the button, and please state your name and address for the record. Councilman Withers, yeah.
My name is Jesse Walker. I'm a civil engineer and land surveyor that represents the church in this matter.
Your address?
My address is 492 Saddle Drive, 37221.
Thank you. So you're here today, you represent the church, so tell us why you're asking for this variance.
Actually, we would like to request a two-meeting deferral at the behest of our council person and ourselves, since there is opposition. I talked several times this week with the council person, and as of this morning, he and I understood this was on the consent agenda, and he does not want us to move forward with it until we get a chance to discuss it with the opposition. So he's requested that on our behalf, I request a two-meeting deferral.
And who is your council person?
Steve Glover.
Okay, so we have a direct request to defer from a council person. John Michael, how should we proceed?
And from the appellant. Of note, it's noteworthy as a council member request, but it is the appellant's case, and they're making the request, so you don't even have to vote on that necessarily, unless you just want to have a good, nice, tidy record of the matter.
Well, I'll move that we defer for 2 meetings.
Okay, I will second it. Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It is deferred 2 meetings. I know during this time you will meet with the council person. Hopefully you will also meet with the opposition in the same room and come up with some middle ground.
Can we share the phone number for the church so that any opposition could have the opportunity, or?
Sure.
Okay, that's 615-800-7092. And we would request that they reach out to us because, you know, we want to be a good community member.
And if there's opposition, there will hopefully be a chance for you to meet with the council person and the representatives of the church about this proposed project.
And we have the required meeting, but we'd certainly be glad to have another one.
Yes.
And just meet one-on-one with anyone.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, you, David.
Two meetings. Two meetings. John Michael.
Mr. Chairman, the next case is 2017-208. Jamie Scarborough, the appellant and owner of the property located at 1409 Greenwood over in East Nashville, has presented an Item A appeal involving a short-term rental property. The applicant operated the property as a short-term rental property before obtaining the legally required permit. The zoning map here shows the property's location on Greenwood. Aerial photo. And photo of the face of the property, although dated now, nevertheless, a face of the property photo. Jamie Scarborough, again, is the appellant. Please come forward at this time and make the desired presentation to the board. I'll ask on the front end, is there anyone here in opposition to case number 208? Seeing no such opposition, Ms. Scarborough will have 10 minutes to make the desired presentation.
Hello.
Please identify your name and your address for the record.
Sure. My name is Jamie Scarborough, and I live at 1409 Greenwood Avenue in East Nashville. And Mr. Chairman and Board, I really appreciate the time to stand in front of you and talk as a behalf. I'm a Middle Tennessee native, and I've lived in Davidson County for over 15 years. And I appreciate all the work that you guys have done to help shape this community. So thank you.
Can you speak closer to the microphone, and let's ask you what happened. Why are you here?
I'm here because misunderstood on my own. I misunderstood the process to getting a short-term permit, and I'm asking for sympathy and compassion on reapplying.
Well, what did you think the process was?
Well, I've got a timeline here to kind of step through if you've got it, but
Yes, that would be helpful.
Sure, I'll pass this around. All right, so I can't deny that I operated without a permit, so that is not something I'm here to say that I didn't do. But what I can tell you that I have done is before I listed or operated, I applied for a permit. I got zoning review approval, I got bond approval, and I requested multiple times a fire inspection. I've got the proof that I did that over back in September of last year. I did operate twice. After requesting 3 times a fire inspection to someone to come out, and I didn't get a response. I did get a voicemail response, but not an email response. And then I started working full-time and couldn't do both because this is an owner-occupied residence, and I just realized I couldn't do it. So come April of this year, I was part of a RIF due to lack of work and decided to apply for the permit, or to continue what I thought was continue the application process. So I reached out and got a fire inspection, which they came and submitted and accepted and approved. And then I went to the board, or I was about to go to the board to finalize the permit, and read that there were additional requirements from when I first applied in September. So I did what I thought were all the requirements to get that approval in June. It's on the timeline that you can see, and got my neighbors to sign documents and such. And then when I went to get the final approval, my approval was denied based off of operating a short-term permit. Well, actually, first it was because my permit had expired, and I had to start the process over, which I did not realize.
So you had a permit and it expired?
I had a permit request, a permit request
okay.
from September that expired.
Right.
It doesn't say.
Yeah, if you don't act on it, it just kind of goes away after
I know that now. I did not know that then.
3 months, I think.
And I have the original, and it doesn't have any expiration date on it. I think that's a law that was introduced maybe in February of this year. So I didn't realize that I wasn't following procedure there.
So what was it, the last, you said it says on your chart you removed that listing from the, I guess, VRBO on the 11th of July. What was the last day that you rented the property?
The 14th.
Of July?
Yes, I had that person already lined up, and I was 3 days out, and just in complete honesty, I felt like it was in bad character to not do it. So I allowed that, and then it's been down since, and I've not accepted any bookings since the 11th.
So on this timeline, you talk about environmental court and it got settled. What does that mean?
I did not know that I was cited for environmental court. That's kind of what moved this. I think I was scheduled for a hearing here, and then found out as I was trying to get all my information in that there was a citing. I don't know what it is. They just said that I suspect that when the fire inspection came and they tried to apply the approval against a permit that was expired, that somehow launched. But I don't know that for certain. They didn't share with me what the complaint was.
Why do you say it was settled? Or is it still pending?
No, I just mean that I worked with a lawyer, and they said there's no reason to come to court. I paid a court fee, and they said no penalty. They
So
agreed
you
that
don't have to go to court over this?
That's complete. They said, the lawyer that I worked with said that it was obvious that my intent was not to try to operate without, and that they encouraged that I come here to reapply.
You hired a good lawyer.
Me? I didn't hire.
And as you know, well, you might not know, environmental court punishment, if you're found guilty there, is 3 years.
I did learn that. I've learned a lot through this process.
So let me ask you this. Our council person who wrote this bill originally spoke previously, and she's still here. She spoke about when she wrote this law, people like you, or initial people that have rent without a permit, should be suspended for a year from joining in the program. Why should we give you less than a year?
The way that I interpreted the councilwoman's comments were that it was at your discretion for one, but two, that was aimed for people who intentionally were trying to avoid the permit process and maybe go under the radar. What I'm hoping to show here is that that was not my intent. I applied for a permit before I ever listed. I didn't get the final permit, but my intent was never to hide from this committee or from anyone that I was doing the short-term rental. It was my error in the process of completing it, and then waiting long enough to complete it that the rules had changed and having to restart.
Are there any questions for the applicant?
I'd like to hear from Robert.
Yes, Mr. Osborne, the enforcer, come forward and talk to us about this case. Our codes and enforcement department works very hard to, bring these cases to the attention that don't have permits, and I know you're probably woefully understaffed. There the council person is in front of you, so speak away if you need any more help, or tell us how you found out about this.
We received an anonymous complaint on, I believe, July 5th or 4th about this property. I found it listed on Airbnb, printed out the advertisement, and I made a site visit on 7/7 to post a stop work order.
Mr. Osborne, tell us how one would make an anonymous complaint, and is it really anonymous? Because we don't see names, and I'm assuming only you have those names that you look into, investigate.
There is a online codes form that they were using at the time. There's also now a short-term rental hotline that they can use, and they don't have to leave their information.
Okay.
And so the applicant has testified that that she took down the site on the 11th of July. Do you have any?
I know it's down now. It was down at the time after posting my stop work order. It was still up when I posted it on July 7th.
Okay.
And can you tell us the nature of the complaint? Was it simply that there wasn't a permit?
Yes, and it looked like she had tried to apply for one back at the end of September in 2016. And then I guess she came back to try and get her permit near the end of July, or end of June. And there were 3 reviews from it from May of 2017, November 2016, and October of 2016.
So the complaint had nothing to do with noise or disruption or anything like that?
No, sir.
It's just operating, she didn't have permits.
Correct.
You could also complain about that, too?
You could.
Yes. Any other questions for Mr. Osborne?
But the applicant has attempted to get a permit, correct?
They have. A warrant was issued whenever I found them operating without a permit. And since then, they've come in to try and go through that process, which led them here.
Any other questions? Thank you again. We'll be calling on you later, I'm sure. Any more questions for the applicant? Do you have anything else to add?
Just that I didn't know about the tip, but I'm thankful that my house rules that I did list show I don't want parties, and I love my neighbors, and I really want to follow the rules to have a strong neighborhood. I live in the house anytime it's not rented. So I'm just asking for your compassion and your sympathy for misunderstanding and for trying to correct it before getting in this position.
I want to ask you one more question because I'm looking at the author of the bill again, and we get these kind of cases. Mm-hmm. You said something that you live in the house when it's not rented, and this is a owner-occupied house. The spirit of owner-occupied is you're living in the same roof of these people that you rent your house to, and obviously you said you didn't want it to be a party house. So when this house is rented, where are you staying?
Well, the intent is for supplemental income, so it's generally maybe once a month that that's my intent, is to rent it. My parents live in Hendersonville, and so I can stay and be available. I also have my parents as a backup if for any reason something were to go wrong. I also love to travel, and so when I travel, that's kind of one of the ways that I was hoping to fund my travel. I have spoken to both of my adjacent neighbors, and touch base with them the few times that I have rented to make sure that there is no issue, because that is 100% not my intent. And I also note in the advertisement that, and when I meet them when they come in, that I will stop by a couple times to pick up mail and such. The intent is really for me not to cause disrupt in the neighborhood, or to have a whole neighborhood full of Airbnbs, quite frankly.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Not for the applicant, but you said something that I would like to get clarified, maybe by Council Lady Allen,
Okay.
if possible.
Thank you. We're going to call Council Lady Allen up here.
And she can bring Councilman Withers.
Does your district, Councilman Withers, right? Okay.
I hope you can explain to us again something David mentioned, and that is the intent of the owner-occupied short-term rental property. Is the intent that the owner be present at all times, or, I mean, obviously they could go to the grocery store or leave, but is the intent that the owner basically be present while a renter is occupying the house?
That is an excellent question. It is one that may be discussed further as the short-term rental ad hoc committee continues its discussions. The definition of owner-occupied simply says that the owner actually lives in the property, and we have a very strict requirement for 2 identifications to prove that they really do live there. We do not specifically spell out that they have to be on site the entire time that the guests are there. So I can't say that the regulation is clear on that requirement. We've had some discussions about whether we want to clarify that, but based on what we have at this point, I would say we've been fuzzy on that. It's a slightly separate issue from this, and I don't have an official answer that the council has agreed to on that.
So can I follow up and ask, because we hear a lot of people that travel and they rent their house because they travel, so they're out of town, but they still own the house and they live in the house at other times. So is that a type 1 owner-occupied situation?
By the definition that we currently have, if their driver's license and their bank statements and their 4 other requirements that we have go to that house and it's their primary residence and they can prove it, we are currently considering that an owner-occupied. If it turns out that we're having a lot of problems with those, then we would revisit that. Thank you.
Councilman Withers, this is one of the many charming streets in East Nashville, 1920s, 1930s, bungalows and Tudors. What do you think of this particular case, and do you have an opinion?
Thank you for asking that. I'm pretty sympathetic to this particular case for a couple of reasons. Number one is I really appreciate Ms. Scarborough reaching out to me very, very early on in the process and sort of letting me know what was going on. And she explained to me at that time that she had initiated at least an application for a permit a while back, and that processes were not completed necessarily, but at least she had made that effort to do that, and our regulations that the council do change from time to time. So I am satisfied that there are some extenuating circumstances in this case, but I do believe that the applicant has made at least a good effort, maybe not completed, but it made an effort to get a permit initially. I've had no complaints or concerns from the nearby neighbors as well, and so given those extenuating circumstances, I'm inclined to support a somewhat more lenient decision today than what we might do if you had a person who didn't apply for it or appeared to be sort of skirting the law.
Any questions for Councilman Withers? Thank you again. Thank you.
I just want to point out that if you recall, a number of us were at the ad hoc committee meeting. We learned a lot.
Yes, we had 5 of our 7 board members at the ad hoc, and it was eye-opening for all of us too, and I think it was a very good dialogue. So thanks for putting that together and serving on it. Okay, we will close the public hearing and discussion. And it's interesting to have this discussion right after we talked to the district council person and the author of the short-term rental bill. A lot of transparency in this particular case. The interesting thing is the kind of getting out of environmental court, which doesn't have anything to do with us, but that's the 3-year penalty. We could only do a year. So what are your thoughts?
It's a very good example of if you look at the meeting that we attended and the general sense of frustration that many community activists have about the issue and others on both sides of it, and then the general feeling that was expressed to us about generically how we handle things, and then when you get to specific ways we handle things, there's not always a broad disagreement, and I think that just shows that there is a need for continued legislation efforts to perfect the rules for the community and do that, and know that we're going to do the best we can in the meantime, hearing these things and trying to be a fair and just body for the specific cases that come. I tend to agree with Councilman Withers that this is a case that falls into that category of deserving a lesser punishment, and it's been almost 3 months since the applicant has rented this, so there's already in effect a 3-month penalty, and I think this board needs to decide is that sufficient, or do you add a month to it, and call it that.
Yeah, and I appreciate Mr. Osborne in providing us the material that we could look in our packet, and it's always interesting how people market themselves. So the applicant said, she grew up in Middle Tennessee, and this is how she lists her house. Under house rules, your neighbors are my neighbors. Please be respectful. No smoking in the house. Smoking is only allowed outside on the deck and back porticos. No parties, excessive noise, or illegal activities. Occupants must be 26 years old of age. We see a lot of these cases, and there are some cases that do the exact opposite. They want the parties. They don't mind. So if I'm looking at rules and I see that listing versus another listing, and I've got a large group or a group that's going to be out here to party, probably not going to go to that house. So I appreciate that part in the here too as well.
So in any sense of whether time served is sufficient or if there should be addition?
Well, I appreciate the applicant's honesty and this beautiful graphic. We don't normally get...
the timeline.
Yeah, but as an architect, I call it the graphic. So trying to give her a compliment here. And so I do feel the 3 months served is a sufficient enough punishment.
And then I'll make a motion that we find that the zoning administrator did not err when the permit was denied due to prior rental, and based on the discretion that this board has, will allow this applicant to apply for a permit on October the 11th, which would be 3 months since after it was last rented.
Okay, motion has been made. Is there a second? Motion's been made and properly seconded. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. This is what we ruled. We ruled that you are eligible to apply again, not that you have a permit. So all that application thing and fire marshal inspection, you need to talk to codes before you post or rent again, and make sure that somebody hands you a piece of paper to say you're official, you have been granted a permit. So thank you for your honesty in being here today. John Michael.
Mr. Chairman, the next case to be presented to the board is 2017-236, another short-term rental case. This one for Joseph Cacciola, the appellant and owner of the property located at 103A Cherokee Road. The request, of course, is an Item A appeal based upon the applicant having previously operated the property for a short-term rental property without the legally required permit. An aerial view of the neighborhood just off West End here gives you some idea of the proximity to that major corridor. Is Mr. Cacciola present?
Yes, sir.
Please come forward at this time to make the desired presentation to the board. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 236? There is. Therefore, the appellant will have 15 minutes to make the desired presentation. If you want to save some portion of that time for rebuttal, save it out of this original 15 minutes. Then the board will hear from the opponents to this appeal thereafter. Please introduce yourself by name and address.
Joseph Cacciola, 103 Cherokee Road, Nashville.
Okay, so why are you here and what happened?
So I was advertising on Airbnb without a permit, and it was never my intent to actually have a short-term rental at the property. I actually purchased it on May 5th from previous ownership, took it over as a primary residence, and I was going to be moving in September 1st. When I closed on the property, I ended up having a squatter there, so I filed a detainer warrant with downtown Davidson County, ended up having the eviction there by the end of June. My intent was to move into Unit A, of course, and when I ended up finding out with the eviction and moving in, and I got to the doors of that place and saw what the guy did to it, it was pretty much inhabitable to rent in regards to a hoarder situation, cockroaches, having to redo the bathroom and everything like that. So with that, I ended up having me evicted, end my lease in Lenox Village, and it's a duplex, so the girls that were currently leased there were ending their lease. So I told them I wasn't going to be able to renew it because I was going to have to move into their side while renovating the other side where the eviction took place.
So what does any of that have to do with renting without a permit?
So
It was just I just want to show my intent, yeah.
So you own A and B.
Yes, I own A and B, so my
And
intent.
where do you live?
In A,
Who lives in B?
yeah,
Now, who lives in B right now?
nobody,
It's empty.
yeah. So what turns out to be is that my intent for that was never to have a short-term rental permit. It was always to be a long-term lease. So I ended up actually leasing the place. It's currently leased, and I'm on the other side. So that does have a 3-month lease after everything was shut down.
What is leased?
The unit, the
A
next door
is
unit.
leased?
Yeah, it's leased.
So you're going to move into B.
Mm-hmm.
So you were here in front of us asking for a short-term, should apply again for short-term rentals.
Yes,
Why?
for my side, that I could.
But I thought you were going to just lease that, so you're not going to do long-term leases?
No, I'm the primary for my primary residence, for my actual ownership, because I can't short-term rental the other side. I have to lease that. It's for my primary residence.
So how did we get here? Like I said, how'd you not know about our laws and?
I had no idea. I was literally sleeping next door without water or a kitchen, and renting out the other place for the money for the construction. So, and I don't know.
How long have you lived in Nashville?
In Nashville, be 3 years.
Is this the first piece of property you've owned before in your life?
Yeah, besides New Jersey, and there's a place on Park Circle.
Okay. So how did you know, when did you find out that we did have laws related to short-term rentals and that you were in violation of said laws?
I came back after a weekend, and I think on Monday there was a notice on the door. So I took that notice. I went downtown to talk to the zoning. I spoke with David down there, and he gave me all the information about the permits and everything. So I put it all together. I ended up coming back the next day, and he let me know that this is what I need to apply for it. So when I applied for it, everything was coming across okay. But what he was doing was also checking the other unit that did not have a flag on it. So actually, when I ended up going back, he was like, whoa, 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 we have to stop because there's a flag on the whole property, not just one parcel. So then once that happened, everything was ceased and dismissed, even on Airbnb,
How many times did you rent out this unit for short-term rentals?
I started
either
doing
one?
the rental the weekend after the 4th of July, and it stopped the August 11th.
So how many times was it rented?
Pretty much, I would say, every weekend from the second weekend after the 4th of July.
This is Unit A.
Unit A, yes, sir.
Okay. The nicer unit,
Yeah,
the one that you.
the only one that you could have somebody live in, for sure. That
And
wouldn't be myself.
When you went down and talked to the folks at Codes, did you have any pending future rentals?
In regards,
So when you went out and talked to the people at Codes, did you have any rentals coming in the future that had not
Yes.
from you. And what did you do with those rentals?
I called Airbnb. I have the chain. I called Airbnb and had them cancel.
All of them?
Yeah.
How many?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 7 or 8. I
Did
would
you
say
have
at
to
least.
pay any fine for canceling?
No, I explained to them the case, and they wrote back to me, hey, I'm assuming it wasn't the first time they received this type of notice, and they didn't charge me any fees or anything like that as a first time.
Because sometimes they charge $50 or more, I guess, to cancel.
Yeah.
For situations like that.
And I was told that if you do it, if you just go online and just cancel on everybody, but what I did was call everybody.
You called them.
And spoke with them directly, and then they took care of it, and
Okay.
they took care of it within 24 hours.
Sure. Questions of the applicant? Do you have anything else to add? We have opposition, so you'll come back.
Yeah,
for
I didn't want
rebuttal.
to, yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's hear from the opposition.
You need me to get up her?
Yes.
opposition?
I've got a handout, so I'm going to give this to you guys, and then
Oh, and I'll take one, too. Thanks.
First, I met you guys at the short-term rental meeting, and again, I want to thank you for your service. I know you guys are volunteers. This would be slow torture for
Oh,
me.
yes, please introduce yourself
So,
and your address for the
I'm
record.
Grace Renshaw. I live at 220 Mockingbird Road. I'm about 2 blocks from this property, and I'm president of the Cherokee Park Neighborhood Association.
And I did read your one-pager of suggestions of updating the laws and
Yes.
stuff.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So you know that scene in Star Wars where Princess Leia says, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope"? Well, the Board of Zoning Appeals is my neighborhood's only hope to stop people who are here because they have already violated Metro's laws. I understand the fact that I and many of my neighbors don't really want our neighbors using houses on our streets as freestanding lodging establishments is irrelevant here because Metro Council made that decision for us almost 3 years ago. But at that time, Metro Nashville also acknowledged there were safety and security issues related to short-term rentals, and they started requiring short-term rental owners to get permits. The permitting process involves an inspection to make sure there are smoke alarms and that guests can get out of the building if there's a fire, and that the place is habitable. I think that's a really important requirement. People who operate FCRs without permits may be putting their guests at risk. I think this board should take it seriously anytime somebody comes before you without operating a permit. In addition to this basic objection, I have a couple of other legal issues. Mr. Cacciola's property has a deed restriction, which I handed out and highlighted, that prohibits short-term rental as a use in this duplex. I emailed you guys a copy of this yesterday, and I'm distributing a copy of this covenant of deed restrictions today. Here's what Provision 8 reads. Use of unit. Each of the units shall be used as a single-family residence only, except that the developer may use any unit owned by the developer as a model for the purposes of marketing unsold units. That's still in existence. Second, Mr. Cacciola applied for a Type 1 owner-occupied permit. I was assuming he was going to rent the other duplex out. If he and his wife intend to live there in one room and rent out another, I'm not entirely sure that's credible to me because these duplexes aren't very big. But the upshot is if he's going to live in one side and rent out the other, because this duplex is separately deeded, and it is, then he is required to apply for a Type 2 permit and not a Type 1. I asked Bob Mendez about that, and that's how Metro Legal is currently doing that law. They may change it, but they haven't now, and it should apply until they change it.
Codes is understaffed, and they don't really have an easy way to verify whether people actually live at the property. When Mr. Cacciola originally applied for this permit, he wasn't really living there, that I could tell. So this board is one of the few entities that can hold local operators accountable for obeying the applicable local laws. Running a short-term rental is a privilege Metro has chosen to grant a few residents. In theory, Metro grants that privilege to people who don't abuse it. Mr. Cacciola has already abused the system by not getting a permit before he started advertising his property. His duplex also has a deed restriction. And finally, he was aware that a permit was required because the property he owns at 733 Park Circle has a short-term rental permit on it, and I have handed out ads for both the Cherokee Road property and the 730 Park Circle property. So he and his brother have advertised a short-term rental at 733 Park Circle. It's not credible that he wouldn't know that a permit was required. My neighbors need you, the members of the BZA, to stand up for us, your Nashville neighbors. And here's one of the big reasons why. Airbnb and other platforms are fully aware that Metro Nashville requires owners to get permits and display them prominently in their online ads. But none of these platforms require that operators who advertise STRs list their permit number or show that they have a permit, even though they know permits are required by law in Nashville. In fact, they don't utter a peep about permits to operators who advertise on their platforms. Thanks to Airbnb's and other platforms' failure to support compliance with local laws, Nashville has at least 2,700 illegal STRs based on information we've gotten from host compliance. Airbnb and other platforms could resolve our illegal STR problem overnight simply by not listing any properties that lack legal permits, which would also greatly reduce this board's caseload in the coming months. You guys have how many of these cases on your calendar today? Every one of them is because Airbnb and HomeAway and BRBO aren't requiring people to indicate that they have a permit. In fact, Mr. Cacciola is here today because Airbnb enabled him to flout local laws and local tax laws. And you will see hundreds more of these cases in the coming months as Codes addresses these cases in increments of 200 at a time because that's all they have capacity for. Metro has the contract with host compliance for which taxpayers, including all of us, pay $200,000 a year because Metro is having to pay an outside vendor to give them information Airbnb and HomeAway should provide our city government for free about who lists properties on their platform and where they're located. In my little neighborhood, we have 12 legal properties, at least 4 illegal properties I know about, and 2 more I suspect. I'm here as a homeowner trying to make sure my quiet, pleasant, friendly, safe neighborhood isn't destroyed by a huge industry that has spent a lot of time and money to avoid complying with local laws. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from when I say, help me, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope. You are literally the only thing standing between Nashville neighborhoods and a bad short-term rental law that's currently very hard to enforce. So I'm asking you, with the things I've handed you, to please use the teeth this law has, a couple of which I've offered up here, to ensure that only law-abiding operators get permits.
I've got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
You had said that the 733 Park Circle currently has a legal permit?
It does.
Okay.
The deed is issued to Mr. Cacciola and his brother. It's a Joseph and Chris. But the permit, name on the permit, I had a hard time finding it, is issued to somebody else. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But if you own a property and there's an SDR permit on it, then you know that SDR permits are required.
And so tell me, so that explains to me why you gave me the deed to that property.
Yes, I'm giving you the deed to that property to show that he owns that property. And I can't print out SDR permits. I hadn't been able to figure out how to do that, but they've got one. You can search the database.
Understand. And then, but you gave me, I guess, a deed to Unit B. at
The
103.
Metro's database has a problem in that there are two separate deeds for Unit A and Unit B, but they have the deed for Unit B posted on both pages, so they've got an error in their database. I couldn't print out the
Okay.
deed for Unit A.
Yeah, and I understand, I mean, covenants I know are part, we don't
Right.
typically take a role in those because those tend to be between homeowners, and it's not something that we do. But I guess and I appreciate you putting it out here, but I guess what I'm having a tough time with is an owner-occupied. Why would a rule saying it could be used as a single family only keep you from having an owner-occupied Airbnb? It doesn't seem to conflict to me.
Here is what I think is the logic, because this has happened to me in East Nashville. I own half of a duplex, and the other half is deeded separately and owned somewhere else. The way our current law exists, that person was able, she owned the duplex when we moved in. She moved to Florida 9 months later, and then she got a Type 2 permit. I have to negotiate with this woman to replace the roof, to repaint the house, to deal with landscaping. All she had to do under our current ordinance was write me a letter telling me she was turning the other side of my duplex into a short-term rental. That has a direct, I can't sell it now. Nobody wants to buy under the same roof as a short-term rental. So I think those deed restrictions are written into duplexes, and in fact, written into mine, but I have to fight it in court and pay to do that, to protect the owner of the other side. If the duplex was under one deed where only one person owned the whole thing, I don't think there would be such a restriction. But when there's a possibility that two separate people could own either side, I think that that covenant exists to protect the owner of the other side. And in this case, the catch-all is on the entire building, but the deed restriction is still there. So I was at least going to present it.
No, I appreciate it, and I think it absolutely makes sense for the Type 2, and I'm still trying to figure out its implication on a Type 1, but I appreciate you giving it to us.
David, would you mind if we ask our legal counsel about this while we're on that subject? I'm having trouble understanding.
So what's your specific question?
Okay, the specific question is the appellant apparently owns both sides of the duplex, but the opposition is bringing up this deed restriction, and is it relevant?
The Metro doesn't have anything to do with the deed restrictions. Metro cannot enforce deed restrictions or covenants between private parties. So if there is a deed restriction, which there appears to be, that's something that would have to be resolved.
Yeah, it's
between
not
the parties
for
in a
us to
separate
enforce.
lawsuit.
Okay, so in other words, he would have to fight himself over that one.
Well, someone with standing would have to bring it and go to court.
And you're right, if they own both sides,
Right.
and they're the only two withstanding, and therefore they would have, right. So, yeah, I'm sorry, I've moved on to the appellant again. We have, obviously, you've given us a
You want me
lot of
to-
questions to ask, so thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else here in opposition to this case? Okay, let's hear from the appellant again. So this is your rebuttal time to respond to what she said, but let's start off. Do you own other real estate in Nashville, and does it have a short-term permit?
I own a percentage of Park Circle with my brother, but that is the first time I've heard that it has a permit.
So how long have you owned this property?
Did you know that it was being rented as a short-term rental?
No. I mean, I bought it last year with my brother in November. We had leases in there, and then one of the leases ended in January or February, and we were leasing it out with a tenant coming in from Louisiana March 22nd, so it was Airbnb for a month.
Do you receive money every month from that property?
In rental lease agreements, yeah, 12-month lease agreements.
But you don't receive any short-term rental money?
No, I didn't even know it has a permit on it, sir. First time I heard it.
So
It can't be in my name either. It can't be possible.
can you tell me, I mean, we have a deed that I guess it says 103 Cherokee Unit B, and it's got 5 names on it. It's got a,
So the deed should say, for 103 Cherokee Road, I think does it have, on your end, does it say where the bills get sent to is 103 Cherokee Unit B? One of the
it's a
addresses?
quit claim deed that has,
You should have that in that packet I gave you.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at I mean, I can answer the question without looking at it.
Well, specifically, who owns 103 Cherokee A and who owns 103 Cherokee B?
I own 45% of both deeds, or both, the whole unit, the whole property.
Okay.
So you're not the majority owner?
I am.
You said you own 45%.
There's other names on there that are smaller percentage ownerships.
But there is no majority owner.
Yeah, because I own,
No one has 51%.
You have the
of
largest
this.
percentage,
I have
but
the
you don't
largest
own a
percentage.
majority.
Yeah,
Can I,
yeah.
can I ask our lawyer a question? So owner, as it relates to short-term rentals, can you have a controlling majority owner as a certain entity in Nashville talks about?
Can you
A
have-
controlling majority owner is no one has 51% or majority, but the person with the most of the percentage is deemed the owner. Is that?
I mean, I think if you have a percentage of interest in the property, you would be deemed an owner.
And eligible to apply for a short-term permit, even if it's 1%, I could apply for a short-term permit?
I mean, the percentages aren't broken down in the ordinance, so, I mean, it might
I'm
be.
glad our
So you,
council people are hearing this back there,
so
too.
you own 45% of your home that is your primary residence. Do you have a lease with the other owners, or how did they get, why did they own 55%?
they're my
of your-
brothers and family.
Right, and so,
So I pay my portion of rent every month. And then we have the other side leased out. I mean, I understand where the deeds are coming from, but I don't know. I live in one side, I literally live there. It's my primary residence. When I took over the place, it wasn't in great shape. I've been there. I know the appeal said she doesn't know if I'm there, if I'm not there. I mean, any of the neighbors, you would see me outside 12 hours a day because I renovated the whole place myself with my hands, painted the whole place, ripped out the whole yard, and increased the beautification of it. And I've been there all summer doing that, and I live there. So all I'm trying to do is apply for the permit for my unit, my side that I'm living as a primary residence, since I've already leased out the other side, which I've done with 733 Park
now,
Circle.
I thought you told me earlier that B was unoccupied, but
No.
you've rented B.
No, I rented A, because that's where I was going for the permit. As a primary
A is
residence,
the
I moved to B.
Nicer one.
Yeah, so I got the lease done there, because once I got the notification, I went downtown, I talked to David, he let me know everything was going on. I'm already, there's nobody in there, and I'm living in one side. So I took and went to B and got the lease for A, which was ready to be rented.
Right, but that's what you just tested. I mean, I mean, I know it's confusing.
It is.
But it's confusing to me. But what I hear you say, what I heard you just say, was that A is my primary residence, but I just leased it for 3 months, and I'm living in B, which makes me think B's your primary residence.
Yes, because
Well-
A was just leased October 1st.
But the permit you're asking for is for A.
But when I talk with David, the whole property goes under the zoning appeal. So when I said, well, what do I do about B since I have to rent this out? So I went down the zoning, and I asked him, what do I have to do? He goes, well, you have to appeal that at the zoning appeals, because even though it's two separate deeds and different parcels, the rule is that it all follows under one. And then I said, okay, so what if somebody owned the other side of it and they wanted to apply for a short-term rental? He goes, they would carry over because it all falls under one. And that's what I was told. So no matter what, I had to appeal the A, even though once I told him, I said, okay, well, I have to rent this place and then move in and stuff like that. He goes, well, you still have to, if that makes sense. This has been the most confusing process to me with the deeds and with the two units,
Right.
everything in itself. So I know where you guys are coming from with the questions, and I've just been following David's recommendations down at zoning.
Well, and from the neighbor's perspective, you know, and kind of from mine too, it's how do I ensure that since you own both sides of the duplex and you're kind of bouncing from one to the other, and if you are truly going to live in one of them, it makes sense that, and that is truly your home, it makes sense that you would have at some point a right to an owner-occupied STRP. But how do I know you're not going to live in B and rent out A as a non-owner occupied because that's kind of what you're doing now. I mean, you're not
No,
doing it
well,
as STRP, but you're certainly doing it on a month-to-month basis. And so that's where I'm having trouble is getting enough clarity to say, yeah, you truly live here. I mean, you heard the last case. It was pretty obvious that that lady lived in her home, and she had for a long time, and she rented it out when she wasn't there. Your case is a lot more confusing.
Yeah, and I understand, sir. I mean, I brought the lease agreement for A, if you want me to pass it around. I mean, I guess that's the only thing I can do to show you is that security deposits, statements that I have Mr. Chisholm's security deposit and the rent that's currently leased. I mean, but I understand where you're coming from at the same point.
Well, I think we may need to talk with either the
So
folks at the legal counsel about.
are we just trying
We're told your whole property is here.
Are we just trying to determine credibility on this issue? Because, I mean, the only thing that we're really tasked with here is if the zoning administrator was wrong in denying the permit, and to that end, are the allegations that it was rented before that are true or not? I mean, is that all we're trying to do is determine the credibility of the witness?
Well, if we
Because we're not going to determine which permit he's supposed to have.
Well, we're also, there are factors that go in if we find he should get less than a year, if that's our ruling.
Yeah, well, well, yes. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think the applicant, and not to get too much into the discussion before we close it, but the applicant admitted he rented without a permit, says he lives in A, but has rented A for 3 months, which says, well, maybe you don't live in A, but yet was told by folks, it's testified that he was told by folks at Codes that the whole property was under consideration and you can only have one. I mean, there are rules for duplexes. And so I think that's, to me, getting understanding the complete story does impact whether or not it's the penalty. But I don't know, what were you asked a question, did you have a thought on?
I was going to say, I'm sorry, sir, but I meant this on the miscommunication. It's a 3-month lease. It hasn't been rented for 3 months. It's just a 3-month lease. Sorry. It hasn't been rented all summer.
Any other questions?
Not for the applicant, but I wanted to get clarity again on duplexes. We don't see a lot of cases with duplexes, and so if he owns both sides of the duplex, then he can legally rent out one side of the duplex and it be an owner-occupied permit. Is that right?
An owner-occupied permit is a permit that is attaches to the principal residential dwelling unit. So I think in a duplex situation, for it to be truly an owner-occupied, he would have to live in the side that he is renting. If he lives in one side and rents the others, I believe it would need to be non-owner-occupied because you've got two different principal residential units.
Okay. That's it. We're going to close the public hearing.
Can we hear from Bob?
Yeah, let's hear from Mr. Osborne. And you could sit back in the audience. So how did you become aware of this case and what kind of actions have you taken?
Received a complaint about this.
Was the complaint just that they were operating illegally, or was it a noise complaint or something else?
It was that they were operating illegally. So I made my site visit and posted a stop work order on the unit. Hadn't heard from this applicant before, so I don't have much information on that. I know there were at least 10 reviews from July and before then. Regarding 733, I know that was brought up, his other property. That property did have a permit, but it was to the previous owner. So I don't believe he went through that process for that.
Is it, to your knowledge, has it been listed since the stop work order happened?
No, they came down probably about to my best knowledge, within a week of the stop work orders being posted.
And it hasn't been listed.
Correct.
Is there anything else that you know that we should ask that you want to add?
I do know that the property on Park Circle was listed. It came down at the same time as this one. I didn't take any action against it at the time because I didn't know about it.
Any other questions? Okay. Discussion.
Well, what I think I heard is that he actually should be applying for a Type 2 permit, and those aren't allowed right now in Metro. And someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but
Well, I mean, today, just like Mr. Harper said, we're here to decide whether the zoning administrator erred in item 8 case. So that's what we're ruling on. It's someone else to determine what type of permit he applies for.
Well, as per usual in these cases, I mean, I think that the administrator was correct in his decision in that it is obvious that it was rented as a short-term rental. So I think we're really down to, what's the duration? And, if I were making a motion, I would, I'd be willing to go 4 to 6 months probably. How anybody else feels.
Yeah, if the ownership percentage does make one think investment, but it may not. We've had people that live in their parents' house that have come to us that don't own any percentage of their home, but they consider it their home because it was their parents and they bought it. Their parents bought it and they are letting them live there, kind of thing. And it is testified that it's family. The jumping around part is something that we haven't heard, and I get it. So I mean, it's already going to be rented for 3 months, so presumably it's not going to be short term during that period of time. So I think that time frame is reasonable, if not a hair more.
Well, do you have a motion, a hair more?
I'll make a motion if the board is ready to entertain one. I move that we find that the zoning administrator did not err in his assessment and that the applicant be allowed to apply for this permit in 4 months' time from today.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? No second. Motion fails from a second. Is there another motion?
I would move that if we stick with 1 year.
Motion's been made. Is there a second to a year? I will second a year. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So it fails 2 to 3. Next motion.
I'll go with the year.
I think that it was said that this, it was August 11th that.
Well, was that a motion for a year?
If Mr. King would redo his motion, I'll
Okay.
go for it.
Mr. King.
I move that we do it for 1 year.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second? I'll second.
Matt, and I'd like to ask.
Discussion. This is discussion.
The discussion, I'd like to ask if you would be amenable to an amendment to have that date start August 11th when the person stopped renting, which is basically saying as soon as I was told I was in violation and I stopped renting, my year can start then, which makes it an effective. It's slightly less, but the penalty's a year, but the start date is when he stopped misbehaving.
Mr. King, is that acceptable?
Acceptable to me, yes.
Okay, it's also acceptable to me, too. So we'll amend the motion starting on August 11th. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 4-1.
Motion passes. The 12-month wait will take effect August 11, 2017. The applicant will be eligible to make a new application on August the 11th, 2018. And that takes us to our next case, unless the board wishes to take a break at this juncture.
Yes, break time.
Short break before reconvening with case 2017-251.
So every week, huh?
Present and 4 members. The next case is 2017-251 in Council District Number 6 in East Nashville. Martinez Rory, the appellant and owner of the property located at 506 South 11th Street, has requested an Item A appeal. This is an appeal of a short-term rental permit issue. The applicant operated prior to obtaining the legally required permit, hence the denial by staff. Aerial photo here showing the subject property just off Shelby, and the face from the assessor's website. See, is the appellant present? Yes, wonderful. The appellant is present. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 251? Seeing none, the appellant will have the 10-minute opportunity to address the board. Obviously, with the district council member present, we would welcome input from the district or other council members at any time during these proceedings. Mr. Rory, if you would introduce yourself by name and address and make the desired presentation to the board.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Martinez Rory. I'm at home 506 South 11th Street. I am the owner. I bought the house in 2005, gutted it. Everything is new as far as electrical, plumbing, what have you, so it's passed the codes through all that. But in short, mine's is kind of clear. I mean, like, I did operate without a short-term permit. As an owner-occupied resident, I was not aware that you actually had to have a permit. But on August 11th, when I was notified of a stop work order, I called Mr. Osborne to inquire because I didn't understand a stop work order, because I just assumed it was a misunderstanding as a result of me having renovated the house back in 2005. But didn't get in touch with him, went down there and talked to someone that day, and actually found out that it was due to the stop work order was the result of me not having a short-term rental permit. They told me that I had to take it down, and I did that day. But also, I went into high gear trying to get into, I guess, compliance. So the 13th, I notified all my neighbors and got written notification from my neighbors, which, by the way, 4 of my 4 neighbors from on the north, south, east, and west, obviously you can see there, 3 of them are churches. Of the 3, 2 are actually church parking lots, and the one on my other side is Mr. Blackwood, who is a off-site landlord in Chattanooga who lives, who operates that quadruplex. That's essentially it. I did what I was in error. I apologize. I did not know. Once I found out, I tried to put it back in order. And actually, the church pastor of Church Christ, when he found out that I was operating as because it gave me an opportunity to talk to them, when he found out that I was a short-term rental property, he thought it might be a candidate, my house would be a candidate to have his visiting pastors or preachers stay at my place. I said, absolutely, that would be no problem at all. They don't seem to have a problem with it. I talked to each one of them directly myself.
How many times did you rent it?
It has it's 3 bedrooms upstairs. So when you say that, it's probably, I would say, at least 15, 20 times. But like the people who stay there, they're like, they come like in threes or whatever, because my bedrooms are kind of big. I have like two beds in each room. So.
Are you usually there when you?
Pardon me. How long have you lived in Nashville?
I have lived in Nashville for at least 10 years. I say 10 years. That's how long I've operated a house. But about 2000, 99,
When did
2000.
you first become aware of this short-term rental?
When did I become aware of like short-term rental?
Yes, that you could do that.
More specifically, Nashville's regulation of short-term rental.
Well, I mean, I found out about Nashville's regulation of short-term rental when August 11th, when I got noted of the stop work order, and I went downtown now to figure it out. Now, I've heard of the Airbnb, but it's, and I have friends that, well, I wouldn't say friends, but I've heard of people doing it non-owner occupied, and from my understanding, you had to have a permit for non-owner occupied, that if you lived there, you didn't have to have a permit.
What did you base that on?
Well, yeah, it's just based on what I've been told through my friends. So,
But did you look online or do anything? Just take your words of your friends who you said may not be your
and
friends?
I say friends, I say it lightly. Actually, I was hanging out at a restaurant, and we were sitting there watching football, and that came up. So I only did this as a result of having lost my job and needed some quick money. I was laid off from my sales job, and so that's the result of why I kind of backed into it. But on a straight and narrow, I had no idea that it was that you had to have a permit for owner occupied. I thought it for certainly non-owner occupied, you had to have one, and I apologize for that.
To me, I mean, this is very inside baseball. If you know the difference between owner-occupied and non-owner-occupied, that sounds like you know that there's because that's the only place where we talk about owner-occupied or non-owner-occupied as it relates to this law. That didn't exist before Council Lady Allen's law passed. There was no such thing as owner-occupied or non. So who told you about those terms, and why didn't you look online?
Great question. I've got on, in the process of trying to be approved, I've gone online and I've read up on it quite a bit. So that's where I get the term non-owner or owner occupied. But
you said before you knew that you thought owner occupied didn't need a license, but non-owner occupied did.
Okay, so I was told that owner, if you did not operate, if you did not live in the residence, that you needed a permit. But if you lived at the residence, that you didn't have to have a permit. So, And
is that correct?
That is not correct. I now know that you actually have to have a permit as a non.
And when did you find this out? When you got the notice on your door?
Absolutely. And then also, when I got the notice on my door, and then I went down and I talked and I inquired down at the codes department. And it was kind of confusing to me too, because I think when you read, it says you have to post your permit online, but then you go online and then there's, for example, people that don't have their permit posted. So, I just say that to say that it's kind of confusing to me. But to be clear, once I found out that I needed a permit, I took it offline like I was asked to. Secondly, I went and got all the notifications, the insurance, and everything else. My listing online is called 506, which is my address. I was clear. I have a picture of the house itself. I wasn't trying to hide that I was doing short-term rental property. My name is fully spelled and what have you. So I'm at the mercy of you guys, to let you know that, hey, I'm trying to try to do it right. I didn't do it right. I apologize for that. I was in error. I see that now, but that's it.
When can we hear from Mr. Osborne?
Okay, yeah, I have one more question for the applicant. It says on your profile that you created for, I guess, Airbnb, my time is split between flipping houses and helping people find dream homes. So you're a real estate professional?
All right, so that's the idea. I'm just got into real estate. I'm projecting that out. I haven't flipped a house. I just started actually the idea of flipping houses. I have not flipped one house.
Do you consider yourself knowledgeable in real estate?
Yes and no. Yes, I know what a good buy looks like. Yes, I know like what a hot area might be. But administrative stuff has never ever been my skill.
Which is why you're here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's hear from Mr. Osborne. Just please come. You can stay there. So, how'd you find out about this house, and was there any complaints against it?
Did receive a complaint that it was not permitted. Went and posted my stop work order on August 11th. He was in within, I think, the next day to talk with me the next morning, at which point I explained to him that he had to have a permit. He wasn't aware they needed one for an owner-occupied. And so I gave him a little educational lesson on the different types of permits and told him that he would have to go downstairs to apply for a permit and the process that would bring him here and in front of you.
How was that conversation with him about the quote-unquote lesson you gave him? What did you think?
Just owner-occupied permits. I mean,
I know, but what did you think about talking to him when he? And you've talked to lots of people with this. I mean, when you were talking to him about why he had a permit, what's your opinion on that conversation, and did he know?
I don't think he did. He had a little bit of information, but I don't think he had all of it. So I don't know if he heard misinformation or if he just found a little bit of it or what. But clearly he didn't have all the information.
Questions for Mr. Osborne? Thanks as usual. Anything else to add about this?
I think, no, sir, except for it's probably not unique in that people come up here and say they didn't understand or didn't know. But, I live there on the property. It's the place I stay. I think it's a type 1 permit that I'm requesting. But, my four of the four neighbors, 3 of them are churches. 2 of them are actually parking lots. The 4th one is a quadruplex. It's an N unit. If I could say no risk or at the churches. I'm not a nuisance to the neighborhood or the community or anything like that.
Last question from me. What have you learned from this process?
That, to be frank, it's kind of frustrating in light of the fact that I'm doing everything I know to do as it relates to, abiding by the law and that kind of stuff. I bought this house with my own money, renovated it with my own money. I'm not operating a gambling joint or trying to find a way to circumvent the law. But as it relates to my house, it seems like, frankly, the income that I make, I'm going to be taxed on it. So I can't hide from it that way. So, I mean, it just is. And the only reason why I'm actually doing it is because I was kind of forced into it as a result of being laid off. And I thank God that it's an opportunity for people who actually need another source of income. People that are elderly, people that are vets, that kind of thing. That it's an option for them. That wasn't there prior to the advent of, vacation rentals. But so I can imagine it's even more disconcerting for those who are really who might be on a strict fixed income. But the other thing I learned about it is like you just gotta dot your I's and cross your T's. That the government's in everything.
Okay. Any other questions? Going to close the public hearing. Discussion.
I don't see it as any different than a lot of the cases we've seen where people simply didn't know that they needed a permit, and he did take it offline once he was notified.
Does anyone have a motion?
I'll give it a try. I'll move that the zoning administrator didn't err and that we assess, or that the applicant's eligible for a permit on October 11th.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any more discussion?
I think maybe we ought to try to take advantage of what we're doing right now. And I believe that a lot of people don't know about it. I thought I knew about everything. I don't know about anything. But maybe if we let people know that we're intending to enforce the thing, not just give them come in, get caught, come in and go get a permit.
So you're saying that?
I think maybe we ought to make it 3 months and then let people know that if you got, this board is going to start enforcing everything. It's going to become 12 months if you don't hurry up and get down there and catch up.
So we already have a motion and a second on the table.
I can amend to November 11th. That would be 3 months.
Is that
3
the
months.
will of?
I'll go with that, yeah.
Okay.
Can I?
Okay. New motion amended has been made and seconded for 3 months until November 11th. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes.
So you're eligible to apply for a permit on November 11th.
Okay. So I've already submitted all the data to do that. So
Come on down on November 11th. We'll see you then.
wait, come here?
Go to the codes department where you made the original application, and they'll assist you with completing the application at that time.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next case to be presented to the board is case 2017-257, DY Construction. The appellant and owner of the property located at 1433 15th Avenue South brings us a zoning case. The variance from height restrictions in the RS5 zoning district in order to keep an existing fence as presently constructed. The zoning map shown here shows you where this subject property is right where Wade Avenue spills into 15th Avenue South. The aerial map shows you the subject property somewhat recently, as it's still under construction in parts. From my recent site visit, the face of the subject property here gives you an idea of the layout of the residence under construction. And then there's the wall. The wall/fence is what's at issue here, members of the board. As you've seen in your packet, the request is to keep that which is already constructed in terms of the higher portions of that brick fence and facade as you go deeper into the property. That is the portion that exceeds the allowable height for that portion of the structure. The view up and down 15th Avenue South here gives you an idea of the surrounding properties. Let's see, Mr. Jenkins, representative for DY Construction, is present today. Is there anyone here in opposition to case 257?
John, oh, okay. So before we get started, John Michael, give us a 101 about height of fences and walls and why the city does that.
The shortest version is you don't have to have a permit to build a fence, a traditional fence, but you do have to follow certain guidelines with regard to the fence you build. Doesn't require a permit, but you do have to follow the rules. And the rules, most simply stated, are 8 feet. That's the maximum height for an opaque fence, which obviously a brick wall or fence would come to that restriction.
How high? I'm sorry, John.
8 feet. In terms of the rear portion of the property or sides of the property, as you come closer to the street, there are visibility concerns. You get into the requirement for 30 inches for any such fence if you're out to the street or otherwise within X number of feet of the front of the street along the sides of the property. And that's all codified under 17.12 of the zoning code.
But doesn't the 30-inch have to be opaque, or doesn't it have to be see-through?
Has to be see-through at the front of the property. And part of what we're getting into here is the height requirement toward the rear or sides of the property, such as shown on the photographs here.
So as you said, you don't have to have a permit for this, but you have to follow the rules.
For traditional fencing, but here it's a matter of the variance being sought for the height of the structure or fence that's in place. Again, I'm using the term fence broadly here, given that it is a brick wall.
Okay, let's get started.
My name is Deron Jenkins. I am the builder and actually going to be the homeowner at 1433 15th Avenue South. I think he kind of misquoted it. The issue that we have at hand is actually the 30 inches. So
The 30 inches where?
yes, sir, in front of the property. So it's within 10 feet of the front of the property. So I brought some things to kind of help you, so you understand what we, what we're talking about.
Put them out here.
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, while Mr. Jenkins is setting up, the last point that needed to be made was this only came to the Codes Department's attention based upon a complaint to our Property Standards Division, which led to the notice of violation. Mr. Jenkinson quickly came in to try to seek the appeal, to try to approach the board in an effort to get it right.
These are very clear diagrams, by the way.
Thank you. So basically, I'm not on the microphone, but
Yeah.
so basically, the fence starts at 30 inches. So it can be from 30 inches down, solid, 10 feet in the front of the house. So 10 feet from here, which is the sidewalk, it can go back, it could be up to 30 inches. Once you get past the sidewalk, which is here, then it can go up to 6 feet. Does that make sense?
So you're saying that's your interpretation of the zoning code?
No, ma'am, that's the code.
Can we get clarification on that?
Be glad to read law into the record, 17.12.040, subsection ABCDE is in Edward, subsection 26, involving screening walls and fences. Maximum permitted height measured from finished grade level on a side of a wall or a fence with the greatest vertical exposure shall be, subsection A, 2 1/2 feet in height within 10 feet of a street right-of-way. Open fences, such as chain link or those of a similar nature, are permitted to be 6 feet in height. And I can keep going if you need to.
So it's a solid, so he's correct in saying that a solid wall is okay at 30 inches.
30 inches and shorter.
And then how far back?
10 feet back is the exact language here. Open, let's see.
We hadn't heard a case like this in a long time, so it's good to get clarification.
Within 10 feet of the right-of-way, 2 1/2 feet is all you get. Then subsection B, 6 feet in height within the remainder of the required front setback, which is the next unit of measurement. And then finally, the part C, 8 feet in height within the required side or rear setback or within any platted common open space, which is not at issue here on the platted common open space. So it goes from 30 inches to 6 to 8.
So 6 is how far back?
within the remainder of the required front setback.
We know the required front setback?
So what is the appeal, actually?
Variance in height of the wall. It's just, we're looking at the wall, the fence, whatever you want to call it.
I proceed, go ahead.
You
Sorry
can
about
keep going while he's looking, it's fine.
Okay, so we're here because the fence starts at 30, so we're going from right to left. Okay, 15th Avenue South goes downhill, which is what this picture is. Okay, this is the right side of the house, which is that side. Does that make sense? So the street goes down the hill. That's what this picture is. Okay, so it starts on the right side, which is where it's legal, over 30 inches. Where you see the red and the negatives is where, as it goes down the street, to keep the level as the same from here to here, that's what it created.
So not only on your chart, you have shown in green what is legal, but in red, what's kind of off or
Yes,
needing a variance.
Yes, sir. So in all actuality, what we're talking about is really a difference of 10 inches. That's actually what we're talking about. So this is minus 10. This corner right here would probably be the highest point, which is minus 15 with this top right here. But if you go from this, which is the flat part, to here, which is where it starts, is a 10-inch difference.
But what you're calling the piers are cosmetic, they're not necessary.
Yes, ma'am. Correct. And so the reason that it does that is because the street slopes.
And so why didn't you start on the other side and?
Well, aesthetically, from the front, just to be honest with you, this is like kind of my dream home. So aesthetically from the front, I was trying to make it aesthetically pretty in general. And so you would have a wall that essentially goes like that. So it was, just aesthetically pleasing, I thought, to go straight across.
Right, okay.
And really no one is complaining except...
Well, we do have, I think, 3 letters of opposition in here.
But I don't, to that, I don't think they understand the rule. Just like, we had to literally explain it. No one really understands, like they think that this is not legal, and it is. Because that's what I've gotten complaints about, but that is actually legal. And on this side, when it goes to the back, it's back here, it'll be 8 feet, which again is legal. But I don't think people, I haven't read the letters, but I'm just not quite sure. Just like we had to explain it to you.
Well, let me,
I don't think people,
yeah, this is great exhibits. These are a lot of work and well done, but what we're missing is a site plan. We're missing a survey, actually, that shows the as-built of where your brick wall starts and stops so that we can get a feeling for its compliance.
well, the brick wall, ma'am, is in compliance as far as on the property line and all that, because that's
But we don't know that without having an as-built survey, is what I'm saying. We don't know that for sure. We're just taking your testimony.
Well, he called the Metro Codes division, and a codes inspector actually came out and checked it, and I sent them codes, my as-built.
Were these their findings of the red numbers that were off, or your findings?
It was there, but I just put it so you could.
Okay, so when codes came out and measured, that's the numbers they gave you?
Yes, but it didn't get as graphic as I did. It just gave a range. It said up to, I think it did the tallest. It said up to whatever the tallest was, so it said it range. It didn't, I'm just showing you where it is.
We don't have that as-built survey in our packet. That's why we're asking you many questions.
Oh, I understand.
And John Michael, can you look at this? And when we ask you questions, I want you to just kind of see his display. So.
What's the question?
No, well, not questions, but I want you to kind of look at his chart, because we had a kind of issue of when does 6 feet start, and is this an accurate, so in red are the ones that, according to him, are out of code, and the green is within code.
Assuming an accurate depiction of all the figures represented here, it's true that anything 30 inches and down is in fact within code if it's within the first 10 feet off the right-of-way pursuant to the ordinance, just as we read a few moments ago. And if anything is above 30 inches within that same range, it is in need of a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals in order to not be pulled down. Beyond that first, sorry to be right over your shoulder, Mr. Chair. Beyond that first 10 feet, you get to a 6-foot height restriction on the fence or screening wall. Up through the remainder of the front setback, and then, of course, the height limit goes up to 8 feet after that, as we read from parts A, B, and C of that applicable section of law.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's the part, all that part is within code. The 6-foot back, which is this illustration, and then the 8 feet, which is, well, it's not even on that side yet, but in the back, that's not what we're here. We're talking about the 30 inches.
And the hardship you're claiming is the topography of the
Yes,
land, the slope.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, we can hear from the opposition, and you could come back. Opposition, please come forward. Please state your name and your address and why you're in opposition.
My name is Vincent Joyella. I live at 1601 15th Avenue South. I am the direct neighbor south of property 1433. If you scroll back, my house will be, my truck was in the driveway in one of those previous pictures. A hardship, I think this is not. I think this is only aesthetic. So that is my house to the left right there with the truck in the driveway.
You're at 1601?
That's correct.
So as we're looking at the pictures here, your house is on the left.
Do you mind if I stand up and take a
sure.
look at that?
But not when you testify. I just want you to point out your house to us. The one that says front.
Yeah, this one.
Yep, 1601.
That's correct.
Okay.
So if you can see from that image above right there and to the street that you guys have on the line, it's a short time for me to back out of my driveway for south traveling bound traffic to make the decision whether to back out and or not.
And there's nowhere for you to turn around, so you literally have to back
That is
out,
correct.
come on the street.
That is correct. And also in those pictures, you can see all the construction vehicles, a porta potty as well. So my view is heavily obstructed coming out of my driveway as well as high oncoming traffic. Also, I've took a picture as well of that fence, and that fence measures from the ground and or the concrete on my side of the driveway is 47 inches tall, which would be 17 inches larger than what is being stated.
Is that at the pier or is that at the wall?
That is at the corner of the wall.
Okay. It what he's calling the corner pier over here. I don't know if you can take a look, just so we're talking. So the left, where he says left side.
Yes,
Right.
correct. And I don't know where they took this measurement from either.
But you're saying 47 and he's saying 45,
Yeah,
but it,
so either way, that's a 15-inch difference from the legal standpoint. What I also think this is I think this is a ask for forgiveness rather than permission. This wall was constructed, and he constructed the wall knowing very well that it was going to be broken. So there's a blatant disregard to the rules and the codes. And Mr. Jenkins has a very high-profile construction company. It's very successful. He is also the contractor, so he knows these rules. He just decided not to abide by them. If you would like any other images, I have a file folder here of other, no trespassing signs that have been completely disregarded by DY Construction and
How's
Mr.
that
Jenkins.
relevant to what we're on this site?
It's just more of a character thing. It's from the standpoint of the rule. There's rules and regulations, and they're not being followed.
Well, I mean, we're just looking at the height of the wall.
Correct.
And whether he should get the variance or not.
Correct.
I don't think any other project.
Well, it's for my safety as well, I would say, backing out of my driveway.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have two questions. Do you agree that 15th Avenue slopes there, that it's a downhill slope?
I do. It's a gradual slope. I wouldn't say it's like a tremendous slope, but yeah, where the corner of, I believe that's Wade and 15th, there's a small divot. Yes, ma'am.
And is it your position that the taller portion of the fence is what's problematic for you?
It's the distance from the tall to the
street.
non-compliant. Yes.
Okay, which I'm not sure, if those are in compliance, I'm not sure we can do anything about that. Is there anything that would help you safety-wise in backing out of your driveway? Would a mirror be helpful there or something like that?
Possibly, yeah, something that I would be, I guess the reaction time I have is,
Sure.
I drive I don't know how long my truck is, maybe an 8-foot truck or something like that, so I have about that length. I have probably about 6 feet, 8 feet to make that decision.
Okay.
Any other questions for the opposition? Do you have anything else to add?
No, sir, I appreciate your time. Thank you guys for being so diligent in this process.
Yes.
I really do appreciate it.
We're going to hear from the applicant again. Please come forward. Oh, you have more opposition? Oh,
step out.
okay. Yes, sure. This is your time. So please state your name and your address and why you're in opposition.
I am Logan Steen. I'm at 1419 15th Avenue South. I live on down the street a little ways.
Okay.
All right. I think the main thing I have a concern with that I wanted to address is my kids love to play up and down the street. There's been a porta potty in the sidewalk for a while. I don't know if that's code or not. But either way, my kids, I had a close call with a car already. I'm also concerned with the driveway there backing out if he's not able to see. We have a lot of foot traffic with Belmont students, Vanderbilt students, visitors to our neighborhood. So if the height's in question or what the intent is, I don't know. But safety's a big concern for me, especially with my son riding his bike. The other thing is I feel with a lot of contractors is if we give them an inch, they'll take us a mile in this neighborhood. It's a high-demand neighborhood. I'm more than welcoming to anybody that wants to build a house or live in this neighborhood. That's fantastic. I just ask that you abide by the rules and the codes. So if there is, in fact, a violation, I just make my appeal that that be considered. Because the concern is if there's an exception made for one, that it'll just the snowball effect will take place.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
You talk about safety, so I would assume the area closer to the street, like the neighbor that we just heard from, is more significant to you than going a little bit farther back, the large pier and all that.
Yeah, well, that's true. My son likes to ride on down the sidewalk and stuff. So, I mean, it's all within pretty close proximity, if that's what you're asking.
But, there's differences between what he was supposed to build and the code, near the street and then a little bit further back. So I'm asking you about more the further back. Is that as objectionable to you as the closer
If it's further back and it's within, if anything's within code and within the rules.
No, there's parts that's not within codes, but it's not.
I'm going to object to anything that's not within the rules just because I know what goes on in our neighborhood and other areas. If you make an exception, then there's just going to be somebody else trying to push the window. So that would be where I sit on it.
Okay.
That would be my opinion. So I've tried to I'm about to put something in my front yard. There are lots of rules, trying to figure things out with the fence company. And I want to make sure I do the right thing before I move forward. And I definitely don't want to put my neighbors in a position to where their safety's at risk. I want to know how they feel about things. Sure, I'm the property owner. I have a right to do that if it's within the law and the codes, but I just feel.
Questions right now? Okay, thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to hear from the applicant again, and it's rebuttal time. So you heard from.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to show the thing, but never mind, I don't have to right here.
Oh, no, please.
Oh, you can't.
Please.
To address both gentlemen, first, I do want to point out that this is what they both spoke about, where he spoke that he couldn't see when he comes out. This is legal. This where this drops down, when this goes up, that is legal.
I thought it was in red because it's not legal.
The 3-inch top to this, but not this right here is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I can theoretically take off 3 inches off the top, and this is in the code, and also this distance is what I'm saying. So this is correct, and I don't think they understand that. I'll remove the porta potty, but what the gentleman didn't hear me say, I guess he was in the restroom.
Oh, please sit if you're going to.
Oh, sorry. What the gentleman didn't hear is this is actually my home. This is where I'm going to live. So, it's not about, give a builder an inch and they take a mile. It's literally, when I built the fence, I told him to start at 30 inches, and when you normally tell a brick mason to stay at 30 inches, they level it out. They're not thinking, let me slope it, because that's not typically how construction is.
Yeah, and I understand the aesthetic appeal of the caps,
Yes, sir.
But I also understand from the neighbors that that extra 5 inches at the corner might have an impact
Yes,
on
sir.
it. I mean, is that something that could be removed, not in the back necessarily, but just across the front to?
You talking about the front corner part?
Yeah, well, the front corners, and I mean, you decide on the middle. If you take the corners, you might want to make it flat all the way. But if you took off those corner posts, then the violation that you have is 0 on one side and 10 inches on the other due to the slope, and it's a lot. That might be a little cleaner for us to think about. Is that possible, or would you be willing to do that?
I'm just trying to figure out what you're asking. So you're saying that left corner?
I'm just saying the left corner pier, which you have listed as 45 inches, and your neighbor said he measured it at 47, and to me,
it's 2 inches, right? Yeah.
Well, but it's still, you both are agreeing that it's higher.
Yes, right.
And so would that be? Well, see, on the left side where it says corner pier, right, and that seems to me like both neighbors were talking about, just that eyesight, safety. If that's just purely an aesthetic.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but let's just, and what the neighbor really didn't actually tell you is I've actually looked out for his safety. If you look on this picture, you'll see there were 2 electrical temporary or main poles that are obviously way taller that really actually block his view. I actually called NES and had them remove it for him.
Yeah, okay.
But, so I'm just saying it to say I'm trying to do and help him. He didn't even know that, but it just disappeared, and he don't know why. He just thinks NES just drove by and said, let's move it. So I've been trying to facilitate this. It's not,
right.
And obviously you can tell by his tone that, we don't necessarily get along. So that's obviously obvious to everyone.
Mr. Herbert, I know.
And the other neighbor is actually here on the other side. So I think that's important.
Here in support?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Who is that? Okay. Mr. Herbert, you have a email from the Councilman Colby Sledge that we did not have in our packet. Could you please read that related to this particular case?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I received this email in my inbox today at 12:40. I had already left to come over here, and I was just checking my emails a moment ago when I saw it for the first time, and it's actually regarding this case, and it was sent over here by council office. It's from Councilman Colby Sledge, and I'll just read it. It says, it's regarding this case, and it says, Dear Chairman and members of the board, I am writing this letter in opposition to the above appeal case number 2017-257 to be heard on Thursday, October the 5th at 1 o'clock in the Sunny West Conference Center in the Howard Office Building. DY Construction is requesting a variance from height restrictions in the RS5 district to keep an existing fence. I do not think a specific hardship unique to this site has been identified by the applicant. I respectfully ask that you please deny the request for relief from the buffer requirement from Title 17. Thank you for your consideration. Cordially, Colby Sledge, Council Member, District 17.
Okay. That's the councilperson for the district. Do you have any response to that? Or
yes, sir, I actually do. Again, I don't think that the council person, with all respect, understand the actual rules and what we're actually talking about. Unless you're sitting here right now and or it was explained to you, why would you know that? why, I mean, I'm just saying, it's just random information as far as a 30-inch height on a solid fence, just as many questions as you had initially.
I think similar
Sir.
to the opposition.
Yes, sir.
There's some people that are just very rigid that say, here's the code, you should build within the code, and I don't care why you haven't. So how do you respond to your neighbor who basically said you should build within the code?
Well, I did my best. I tried to make it aesthetically pleasing for everyone. When I first came to the job, I introduced myself to him, introduced myself to both neighbors, and told them not only was I the builder, that I was actually going to live here, and I was really excited to be in the neighborhood. So, like I said, I've done my best. Obviously, in infill, it's very difficult. I'm sure you guys get stuff all the time about building. There's kind of no nice way to build. I mean, I introduced myself. If you have any issues, I gave them my number. I did everything I could to facilitate whatever that situation was. But as far as the fence is concerned, I did the best that I could to try to stay within codes. And I'll be honest with you, I've never had to really build a fence like this because it's really not cost effective. But because I'm living there, to be quite honest with you, it's the first time that I've built the fence. I don't know if you have previous pictures, but I actually spent a lot of money reconstructing the entire fence initially because I learned in this particular instance, because I'm constantly learning. I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect builder. But I won't make the same mistake again. When I was under the understanding of what the rules were, I tore half of the fence down. You probably I don't know if you have pictures of that or not. And then I reconstructed it to this, which is what I felt like was into codes. And I didn't even know that there was an issue until the neighbor, again, who has called the police on me 5 times, siphoned $3,000 out of me. I mean, it's just been a nightmare.
None of that's in front of us. So. Any questions for the applicant?
So what do you have to do to be compliant? What would you have to do?
Well, I haven't been able to be perfectly honest. If you look at that picture, you can see that I'm off his property line. We really don't even know, because it still can vary 2 to 3 inches when I can feel, when they dig for that wall, they dig it, and then you backfill around whatever you dig. Well, I've tried to put, dirt back or wanted to on his property, but every time I do, he calls the police. So it's like I'm trying to, facilitate the problem, but he's complaining, but he won't allow me to fix it either. I don't even know. I mean, I could definitely take that end off of the pier, that end pier, like you suggested. That's 5, I don't know, however many inches it ends up being. But we don't know. Like I said, it can gauge anywhere from 2 to 5 inches with backfill. Like it hasn't been done yet because obviously the house isn't complete.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
So, are you willing to remove, you're calling it a pier.
Or just the top, yes, ma'am.
Are you willing to remove it off the taller post in the back? Are you willing to take off the 3-inch cap off of the large pier on what you've got the left side photograph?
Can you?
We'll come around.
Where it says 75 inches, if you'll take that to 72, I think is what I'm hearing.
Where it says large pier on your picture.
Okay, yeah, that's I'll do the 3 inches, but we really don't know. Because if I was able to backfill, I think it would, this is 3
I understand
inches.
what you're saying about the backfill, but what he's saying is he can't see when he backs out of the driveway. So I understand your position on the height measurement.
Yes, ma'am.
But really what I'm looking at is you're going to be living next door to this person, and so I'm trying to make that as amenable to both of you as possible. And so I'm asking, based upon the complaints that have been made, if you're willing to remove the cap off the taller post in the back and the cap off the front post, are you willing to put a mirror up so that he can see to back out of his driveway?
Sure, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Where would the mirror be located?
Why can't he mount it? Well, we'd ask him. Would you locate it on the fence, on the brick?
But then it would be on my property.
That's the whole issue.
That's his, I'll mount it. He can mount it. We can mount it on his I don't know where to mount it.
Why can't you mount it on your fence?
Because my fence is not on his property.
But you can
It doesn't have to
it's
be.
your property.
It's your property. You can maintain it. You can put the mirror on it as long as it's where he can see it.
Oh, I mean, it's just been really sensitive about the property line and the property and all that, but
Well, I
I mean, I
understand
don't
that,
really
but
care.
would you be willing to put a mirror on your fence in your property?
Okay, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I don't know what exactly,
Okay,
whatever he
you're
wants.
sounding-
I mean,
see, I talked to my family about this. You're not sounding like you're excited about that idea, and if you're not, it's fine. The question is, are you willing to do something
yeah,
that
I'm
will
willing to
assist
do
him
it, yeah.
backing out?
I'm not excited, but I'll do it.
Okay, well, I don't think he's excited about your fence, but we're trying to
Right,
get to
I
a place where
understand.
we can work.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Okay, anything else to add?
No, sir.
We're going to close the public hearing. Discussion.
Well, I'm worried about the safety. As someone who walks quite a bit on sidewalks in Nashville, and I'll say I walk in Council Lady Allen's district often, I am always confronted with these same kind of issues walking on the sidewalk, and I don't want to go into some of the times when I've almost been hit. But I feel that the fence should be come into compliance with the code for safety reasons. And I can appreciate the suggestion and helpfulness, but that's my stand on it.
Other comments?
Yeah, I mean, I do see that, but I'd also know, the street does slope. I do get that. I think there is if we were to choose it, a legitimate topography issue that would allow some type of variance. I think that the column caps are aesthetic and are not necessary and should probably be removed to help with the height. But I'm kind of torn on just exactly what level. I mean, fences don't have to be level across, but I understand why an owner would want them to be level across. And so I don't know.
Is there a middle ground? So while you think about that, I'm going to read a letter in opposition that we received from Rachel Zylstra, who is the president of the Edge Hill Village Neighborhood Association. She says, "Dear Board of Zoning Appeals, I'm writing on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Edge Hill Village Neighborhood Association regarding appeal case 2017-257. We have heard countless complaints and grave concerns from neighbors who will be impacted by your decision. Please oppose this appeal and uphold the building code. The building code works in favor of and protects the surrounding neighbors from dangerous blind spots. This particular fence is better described as an opaque brick wall that blocks visibility, which is a serious safety concern." Respectfully, Rachel Zylstra.
Okay, I would comment that we have had opposition, and we had opposition from the councilman, which I know we all take very seriously. But I believe that the slope creates a hardship that he did not create. I don't know the best solution, but it seems to me that if you're dealing with, I don't know that 10 inches less on this short fence is going to make it any safer or significantly safer that would warrant taking it down 10 inches on the side that's not in compliance. Seems to me, I would consider taking down the caps that do put him over more than he has to be and granting the variance in that respect. I think mounting a mirror would assist the neighbor. Maybe y'all think that's a step we shouldn't take, but to me, I think those two things are appropriate.
Well, mounting the mirrors sounds like a good idea, but then where do you put it?
Well, I don't know why you don't just put it on the fence. I mean,
He's not excited about that, as she said.
Well, but he did say he would do it, and the neighbor indicated he thought that it would help him safety-wise. I'm happy to leave that off if we're going to make a motion.
Well, and scale-wise, I mean, the difference between 30 and 40 inches is about the difference between the tabletop and the ledge, and that's, in this, y'all are the architects, isn't this a 30-inch top, and add 10 inches to it? So, I mean, you do get a sense of scale there. I mean, and so I appreciate the safety part. I mean, to me, I wish there was something in between. I wish it wasn't 40 inches. I wish that the slope wasn't as steep as it is, but that's where we are. I don't know the answer.
Anyone have a motion?
I don't yet, but I do agree about this topography being the hardship. I just can't get past the safety issue, and we don't have to grant a variance even if a hardship is shown, from what I understand from our BZA training. And I worry more about the people on the sidewalk and kids walking on the sidewalk and not seeing that truck backing out. And those are issues that when I walk, I face those issues. So that was my concern. It is that neighbor, but it's the other neighbor too.
But
Other
I
neighbor.
understand, not
neighbor.
seeing the truck. The height is legal and that
but
far back.
I'm worried about this part, the part in front. And I think that's what we're debating.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, it's 3.5 feet. I don't think it's.
Yeah, that's the difference of 10 inches that David was telling us.
Yeah, I mean, there's two different, there's testimony of 10 inches and testimony of 17 inches, and I don't know what's correct. So.
Well, yeah, I think the 17 came from the difference in that corner, and so it would be the difference of 15 versus 17 at that corner, and I think, he's agreed. I mean, I don't know of anyone who said just leave it be. I think that what it is you would have to have those caps removed, and maybe 40 inches is the most any of that would be if that even passes. But I think that's where you got that higher number. Was it just on that corner?
What about the middle ground of letting it stay level on the front and just taking this side down to compliance? Because, I mean, I don't think it's any safer across the front to make it slope down. I mean, obviously, it looks better to be flat at the height we're talking about. So why not just have him bring it in compliance on this side?
Going back how far, or going
this
across?
Side.
Oh, there.
Here.
And I still think if you're walking on the sidewalk and you're here, you're not going to see, I don't know, you might see that truck.
All we can do is put it in compliance. I mean, he can have a fence up to 30 inches. I mean, he can have that. Right? I think I'm right.
Yes.
So.
Anyone ready for a motion?
Any thoughts or with any other wisdom?
I tend to agree that the side with the neighbor who complained is probably the side that we need to kind of look at more than the front. And I think we all have a consensus that the pier should come down. Question is what you do with the wall and the 10-inch difference.
I'll move that we grant the variance on the front fence, given the topographic condition as the hardship, and that we not grant it on the side fence.
Okay.
And
motion's been.
David, was that include removing the caps of the piers, and that the maximum height would be 40 inches? On the front face of the property?
I thought the piers were legal as they were.
No, the front piers are not. The front piers are 45 inches.
But what he's saying is keep the front and
I'm saying
bring the side
bring the sides
to the left side to compliance. That's its motion.
I would support that motion if it would be amended to remove the caps on the front.
I'll second that amendment. If you're agreeable to the amendment.
Yeah, oh, sure.
Okay, so restate, so this is basically bringing the left side into full compliance and taking the caps off the front and allow the rest of the front to have a variance in height.
Sure.
And that's acceptable as a second?
Sure.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, it passes with one person in opposition, so 5 to 1.
Can you explain?
The next case to be presented to
I'm confused.
the next case to be, I'm sorry?
Sorry.
He wants to explain.
I'm confused. I didn't catch it.
So basically, we're saying the left side has to be brought into compliance, and the front side, you have to remove the caps on the front. But please talk to codes, and they will explain exactly.
Oh, they're going to explain things?
Yes. When you come back tomorrow and talk to codes. But basically, the left side has to be brought into full compliance, and the front, the height is okay, but you have to remove the caps.
You'll have a step down on that left side. It'll be flat across the front as you're looking at it, but you have a step down. Go back up 6 feet.
Okay. Thank you. John Michael.
The next case for the board's hearings 2017-258 involving the property at 1829B 16th Avenue North. Derek Salter is the appellant and owner of the property. This is an item A appeal involving a short-term rental permit. The appellant operated prior to obtaining the legally required permit. The zoning map here shows the property on 16th, just one block off of Dr. D.B. Todd Jr. Boulevard. And then the face of the property from the assessor's February photography. Is Mr. Salter present? Very well. Come forward, sir. Please introduce yourself by name and address and make the desired presentation. We will ask, is there anyone here in opposition to case number 258? Seeing none, Mr. Salter will have 10 minutes to make the desired presentation to the board.
My name is Derek Salter. My property address is 1829B 16th Avenue North.
I'm going to say, I recognize Mr. Salter's name, and we may have had prior business dealings, but I don't really remember him. I'm going to disclose that we may have had a prior business association, but I don't see that it's going to have any effect on my ability to rule in this case.
Please proceed, and let's go.
I'm here because I know absolutely nothing about short-term rentals until about a month ago. I'm a principal at Neely's Bend Elementary School, so that pretty much consumes every single thing that I do. I had a college roommate, old college roommate, come to me probably about 6 or 7 months ago. I travel. My son stays in Huntsville, Alabama, and I have a home down there that I stay with him on the weekends for my visitations. So I'm pretty much gone every weekend from Nashville for the most part. And I got a notice on my door when I came home. I didn't have my property listed. My buddy does it for me. Charges me about 20% of whatever I get on it. And come to find out, his was illegal as well. Didn't know about that. And when I found out, I got the notice on my door. I immediately asked him to take it down, looked on the internet, found all this information about short terms, educated myself real quickly, told him to screenshot it for me and send it to me. And this is saying when the date that it was taken down on August the 29th. I told him to put it to after my appeals date. The very next day, I then went to apply for a permit because I thought that I could get a permit. They denied me because he said I had a nasty thing in the computer, which was the note that I got, and I told him about it. And in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. And I came here to you guys to appeal the case.
So did you have anything with your buddy in writing about managing this property?
No, he's just an old college roommate, somebody I've been knowing for a long time.
And how did you all come up with even 20%? Because I think actually the standard's about 15% to manage
Really?
the property.
So he's been doing this for a while. And
he has.
Yes, yeah. He's
And
been
so
doing
when he came to you, it's like, hey, I've been doing this. I'll do it for you, and I'll give you the money. And
hey, the dollars look good to me.
So when you went to him and said, hey, I got this notice from the city, what did he say?
Honestly, he said, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to take the picture down of the address. I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, and I can put it back on there and nobody will know. And I was like, let's not do that. Let me call, and educate myself because I was ignorant. And I educated myself and found out what I needed to do to get this permit. And ever since then, I've been trying to get the permit. So I've pretty much just been waiting to this day to come speak before you guys.
Okay. So you live in the home?
Yes, I do.
I mean, we don't get anything other than a packet that has kind of the reviews and what's going on. And
right.
When I look at your listing that's in the case file and how it's kind of set up, it really looks like it's a party house.
I have kids.
No, what I'm saying is that it's, you got 17 reviews and your ad says you can hold 16 folks, which is 4 more than, legally you're allowed. And you got 10 beds advertised.
Mm-hmm.
So it has, one bedroom has 3 beds, another bedroom has 3 beds, a common space has
sofa bed.
Yeah, sofa, but 2 mattresses, and then the one bedroom just has a king size bed. And so, I mean, the reviews are saying, bachelorette party at 13, 9 guys, bachelor party, had 11 gals, had 11 guys. And so that's just what, again, I didn't know you, don't know anything about, all I know is what I read here.
Right.
And to make notes about, what's up with this property. So, I mean, it really does, on paper, look like one of those houses that's set up for a bachelor party.
Okay, so I do have bachelorette and bachelor parties do stay there. My house is connected to another house as well. His name is Rob. We got to know each other really well. There's no noise or anything coming from the houses I know, because sometimes when I come back home early, I'll ride by the house to see what's going on. I have Ring technology. Have you guys heard of that? So whenever motion comes in front of the house, it picks up everything in the front and in the back side. And if I see somebody, because I can see it at any time, if I see somebody, acting inappropriate or anything like that, I can actually just pick my phone and hit a button and talk to them right then.
So
but
have you done that before?
Never had to do it.
So did you write this review that talked about this home is perfect for a group of 15 or 16 and so close to everything that you won't need to rent a car and all of that?
No, he does everything. I don't even have access to that page.
So you didn't write bachelor and bachelorette parties are
No.
welcome, 2 exclamation points.
He sat down and we talked about it, and he said that he would take care of everything for me. So basically, he just...
So in your research about the short-term rentals, what did you find out as far as the maximum number that
So I found out
allows?
the maximum number is 12 that you can have in a house at a time.
Other questions for the applicant? Okay, let's hear from Mr. Osborne. Mr. Osborne, the enforcer, please come forward. So, the usual questions, how'd you hear about it? Have there been any noise complaints, or is it just complaints that this didn't have a permit?
I would have to double check on the reason of that complaint. I don't have it in front of me, but I have it on my computer.
But any noise complaints?
I would have to double check on that.
Okay.
Give me just a second. I was looking at there's another property, it looks like they had permitted, that had pulled up, and I was...
What do you mean they? The same owner?
His wife, I believe, Candace.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Do you all have a house somewhere else?
We are separated.
And does she have a permit?
I think that she does.
And did she use the same person you used, or did she use somewhere else?
We had we had a main primary residence. When we separated, we moved into 2 different households and rented out our primary house. Neither one of us could afford to stay there.
So it's just being used right now for Airbnb?
No, our primary residence has a lease on it.
Like a long-term lease?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Osborne? Okay. Anything else to add?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Going to close the public hearing. Discussion. Is there opposition? Is there opposition? I don't think there's opposition for this case. Okay. Close the public hearing. Discussion. So this is one of those cases that I mentioned to Council Lady Allen that we would have somebody that was entrusted to take care of the process, and they obviously didn't. And they got 20%.
Well, let me just tell you, he doesn't have access to it anymore.
We're close, yes. Okay. So discussion.
Evidence that he's here before us because of a complaint. He has come down and gotten in compliance. Did we ask if it's taken down? It's not rented now, right?
We'll ask. Is it listed and
It's not
everything's
listed.
down?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Your
not
friend wanted to keep it going or do something squirrely, but he came in front of us.
I just wanted to make sure on that. So, to me, he's here before us to get into compliance. I don't think it's substantially different, but for the fact it's a much larger home than the case we heard earlier that we deferred 90 days, or that is an additional 30 days. That would be my comment.
Well, and I think that's, I do agree, other than, in that case, there was no activity that was, illegal, and it wasn't advertised as illegal, and this one has been. So there's, and I don't think it was the fault of the applicant. I think it was necessarily because it was testified that he entrusted it to someone else who clearly did this incorrectly, and when was faced with this problem, suggested that they skirt around it, which I applaud the applicant for not taking that path. But that is I think, one of the key differences between those two cases.
That being said, does anyone have a motion?
I just want some clarity, just because we have a lot of people who are interested in STRs that are in the audience. We don't rule on the fact that it was advertised to have 16 people and only 12 are allowed. We don't.
Advertisement is a separate element of the short-term rental ordinance. The element that this board considers is if a permit was denied for operation.
Okay. Any other discussion before a motion? How about a motion?
I make a motion that we find the zoning administrator did not err in denying the permit, but that the applicant should be allowed to apply for the permit on November 11th, 2017.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second? Okay, motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion?
Well, I would, like we did before, the 3 months, if that's what you were intending, 3 months, that's what we've been, the notice was August 28th. He applied on August 29th. So would 3 months be November 29th? Is that?
I'm agreeable to that.
Yeah.
Amend it to November 29th. And that's acceptable for the second? Okay. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass. Oh, again? 5 to 1. You will not be eligible to apply again until November 29th.
Okay.
And then at that time, you can apply. That doesn't mean you get a permit. You are just eligible to apply.
Right,
okay?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case for the board's consideration is 2017-263. Kristen Osborne is the appellant and owner of the property located at 226 Lauderdale Road, shown here on the zoning map. This is an item A appeal involving a short-term rental permit. The applicant operated prior to obtaining the legally required permit. The aerial map here gives you a sense of the residential property in question, and from the assessor's website, a dated photo, but nevertheless a photo of the face of the property. Ms. Osborne is present. We'll have, is anyone here in opposition to case number 263? Seeing none, Ms. Osborne will have 10 minutes to make the desired presentation to the board. Please introduce yourself by name and address.
Kristen Osborne, 226 Lauderdale Road.
And I'm Grace Renshaw at 220 Mockingbird. There we go. Grace Renshaw.
So how do we end up here, and
Probably a very familiar story because there's no other excuse other than I didn't know. I have a garage apartment that was a music studio. I've been in my house for 13 years, and I converted it just, I had friends of my neighbors and family members that would come stay, and then there was times when there was nobody staying there, so it sleeps 2 people. I got permission from all my neighbors. I didn't know I needed a permit. So, I know that sounds like, you've heard that repeat, but it's the
So
truth.
when did you find out that you were in violation of our,
When I got my door hanging thing,
okay? And so what did you do immediately after that?
I went online and started to figure out all the information I needed to do, which was I said to, go talk to all my neighbors, get them to sign a document. I talked to Grace, and then made an appointment to see David. And so that's when he more or less educated me on what I'd been doing wrong for, I didn't know I was doing anything wrong, quite honestly. But
Did you have any future rentals, and if so, what did you do with
I
them?
had to take them down, and Airbnb said they were not going to penalize me.
How
'Cause that was
many?
the first thing, 5.
5, okay. So how many rentals did you have before this?
Probably not many. I had
More than 10?
Yes. I had someone that was there for 4 months, a friend of mine, when they were remodeling their home.
Okay, 4 months, that's long-term rental, that's not short.
Well, yeah, but it was just a family friend is what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah. But so how many short-term rentals did you have?
I don't know. It's probably on the page,
More-
maybe 30. I don't know.
You said that's not many? 30?
Well, I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, in the packet we have from August of 2015 to the present, there are 38 reviews.
Okay.
But it's over 2 years.
Yeah.
I have a question for Grace. You were here in opposition to somebody that
Yes.
basically did not have a permit in the same neighborhood.
Right.
Why are you here in support during
I'm
the
here
same
in support
meeting?
of Kristen because I honestly thought you would need to live under a rock not to know you needed a permit. But when she came, she lives around the corner, and I did not, know she was operating a short-term rental. But she came around the corner, and, I explained what she needed to do. And she rents to 1 or 2 people. She rents at her house. I think she has had many rentals over the 2 years, but it's not like it's constantly occupied. She's a single woman owning a home, and it helps with her mortgage payments. And, for me, that's that's actual home sharing, whereas, renting out your house over a weekend to 16 people when you aren't there, or renting a freestanding house to 12 people that no one ever lives in doesn't strike me as home sharing. Renting an extra room to 2 people who are coming to town as a type 1 rental seems like the legitimate use of short-term rentals.
I'm just
She's
still
there, she
confused about.
supervises.
I'm still confused about the juxtaposition that you very strongly, at this earlier in the meeting, said that you were against somebody in this Cherokee Park neighborhood for having a rent that didn't have a permit either, and now you're sitting next to her saying it's okay.
So I've watched that guy's property. I was not certain he lived there. And he actually deferred his hearing, and I wondered if it was because I had gone on record as saying I wasn't sure he lived there. I had literally been walking past, no one was putting garbage out and so on. He did not move in there until after his last date. And since he owned 2 properties, one of which had a short-term rental permit, I felt like he already knew that permits were required, so I didn't,
Well, I get all
I
that,
think
but
there were extenuating circumstances
You have been a
with
very
him.
vocal critic of the
Yes, I
short-term
have.
rental procedures here in Nashville, and
But I
probably
don't oppose the type 1s. My discomfort is type 2s. And I also, at least as I understood it, I thought this guy was going to live in one side, or at least that he was going to say he lived in one side and rent out the other. And if he does that, he needs a type 2 permit. And frankly, one of my purposes was to put him on notice that I was watching, because we have a lot of fraud where people say they live there, but they really don't. I know we have one of those up the street from me right now, so.
Okay. Questions for the applicant?
And just refresh my memory, we've heard a lot of these today.
Yeah.
Did you say that after you received the stop work notice, that you did not rent again?
No, I had to cancel all of I only had 5 reservations for the following 2 months, I guess. And before I could even, after I got the door hanging thing, before I could even get down to my appointment with David, then this thing was from, Mr. Osborne was on my house. And that was all within about a week period of time. So, but as soon as my dad was in town, he called, because I'm trying to do this by myself, and I thought it was my home, and I could do, it's 2 people at a time in my back of my house,
I think you answered the question, it's fine.
Yeah, so, yeah, and.
So I'll ask you a question I asked someone earlier. What have you learned from this process?
Well, I mean, it was my responsibility. It was my ignorance. I don't have someone managing my property. I'm the only person in charge of it. I guess I've been in Nashville for 27 years. I'm from Utah. Been in Nashville 27 years. Didn't even know there was something that I needed to be aware of regarding something like this. Now, I've become really involved with a lot of my neighbors through this process, and the most important thing to me was getting their approval, support, ask them if I've offended or hurt anybody, and then, in the process I've learned that there was, something legal that I was not aware of. And that, quite honestly, that makes me feel ignorant. But, I know I'm an intelligent person. I just didn't know in my own backyard I'd have to be worried about that.
So
I didn't have to I don't have a business license, so,
Yeah. Okay, so what do you really tell the author of the short-term rental law that is sitting back there, who just still very incredulously wonders how anyone, particularly people who have lived in Nashville as long as you do, did not know about this legislation that's been around for years?
I wish I had a better explanation for it. It was completely innocent. I don't advertise, I'm assuming you guys you've pulled up my, whatever I had listed. What I was discouraged by was the fact that I did something so simple. I just assumed a big company like Airbnb or I don't list with VRBO or whatever the other ones are. I assumed that would be something that I would be told.
This speaks to a point that I made before. The first thing Kristen said to me was Airbnb didn't tell me I needed a permit, and they don't. So I think that is an issue that means you're going to see a lot of these cases.
Well, and also, if I can interject, it was interesting. As soon as I had to call and cancel reservations, all of a sudden I got a customer support person from Airbnb calling me.
Like a real person calling?
Like a real person.
Okay, and what'd they say? Oh, well, what happened?
It was just a song and dance,
Okay.
So.
Mr. Osborne, can you come up and talk to us? Mr. Osborne, can you come up and talk to us? So, but you canceled everything. There's no current postings right now.
Nothing's listed anymore.
Okay.
No, the first thing I wanted to do was, if I'd known, I would have done it. It would have been so much easier.
Of course.
To get a permit.
Yes.
I wasn't trying to skirt or, skirt the issue.
Mr. Osborne, I'm assuming no relation.
No, we figured that one out.
Correct.
Okay. So, how'd you hear about this? And were there any complaints related to noise or anything like that?
Not noise, is just a complaint about not having a permit. My first complaint I received about this property didn't have very good photographic evidence to prove that it was this property, but it confirmed that it was the same owner. So I left a door hanger on August 11th and didn't hear anything back. But on August 24th, I found another advertisement that did have better evidence and posted a stop work order. A couple days after that, I was contacted by her father and told them the steps to take to remedy the situation.
You didn't respond to the door hanger?
My dad responded to it. I thought he had called you. All I did was go online immediately and I printed all the information I needed. I was confused by it, to tell you the truth, because the door hanger.
So I didn't know about the door hanger, Mr. Osborne. What is the door hanger?
The door hanger basically is a simple green card, basically, that says "call us regarding," and then it has a bunch of different check boxes.
But it's not a stop work.
It's not a stop work order. No, sir.
Interesting.
So I wanted to see and make contact to see if she was doing it, or if I had the right person to see explain.
And it's obviously a bright color and.
Well, you can't miss it. I didn't understand it. There's a list of things, trash, debris, a checklist.
Oh, so, and our council person's sitting over there that wrote the bill. We might need to get you a specific door hanger for short-term rentals as opposed to the generic, you might have a codes violation.
It does have use.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Can we see it?
Yeah, sure.
But would it be helpful to you to have one just specifically for short-term rentals?
I can start writing that on there and make my own little checkbox.
Okay.
Save some money.
Yeah. But we could probably scratch up some funds for you to have one that just for short-term rental, so it won't get lost in the, oh, do I not have a clean yard or something else?
Well, that's passing around. We have a neighborhood listserv, and there is one particular STR that's been a recurrent problem that gets comments all the time. Kristen's has never gotten a mention on that, but she did get lots of support and endorsement when the code sign went up, and there was a reaction to that.
And this is interesting. It's, we're sorry we missed you, kind of like the cable man or something. You were out when I came by to perform a property standards inspection, and I noted the following violations. And there's all these things, and at the bottom it says, use of property not permitted. So I may not know what that means. So I think we need to have a more detailed door hanger as far as, short-term, because the other things on here are graffiti, trash, vehicle parked in front yard, accessories, and so you check the use of property. But yes, I think given the frequency of these kind of violations, we need to get you one that's a little bit more clear.
That could be helpful.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Do you have anything else to add?
Can I add something?
Yes, of course.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were speaking to me. I don't know if there is an agenda that can be participated in with some of these companies, because like I said, I might be naive about it, but I instantly assumed that would, because it's not like this. It's not like a mom and pop shop. It's Airbnb. I've never been a renter, so I don't know much about it in that sense. But is there any sort of anything that's going to make them partially responsible for that kind of notification, even if it's a page on their website?
Yeah, that's what the council person has been working on with the Vice Mayor David Briley subcommittee related to this, and as they look to kind of update the laws that they are trying to, Airbnb has local lobbyists and lawyers here representing them, and they're trying to have the proper dialogue with them to require either you post a number or if you put in a zip code, some box comes up and says, hey, you're in Nashville. There's laws. Here's a link to their site.
Got it.
Make sure you sign up before you sign up with us.
Makes sense. Yeah, and that, innocently, that for me, that would have made a world of difference.
Yes.
But it is you asked what I learned from this process, is it's my responsibility to find out the information I need to be
Thank you.
well-informed.
We're going to close the public hearing. Discussion.
Well, it sounds a lot like the other guy in her neighborhood, so maybe we should make a motion for the same punishment. Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure what's different between this and the other guy's case.
Well, it's
we've had a lot
definitely
of
owner occupied.
Which one were you talking about?
The same guy that
the
was
duplex
in the neighborhood.
person. She's saying the
same
duplex
neighborhood.
one.
Yeah.
The guy that lived on one end.
Well,
renovating.
Is there anything factually different?
I think factually different is that he only owned 49% or 45% of his property. He owned two duplexes that were right next to each other. He was moving back and forth from one to the other, and the one that he applied for, he just rented long-term for 3 months, which made me think and question, where does he really live? So, I mean, I think there actually was, in that specific one, to me, there was a pretty big difference than somebody renting their garage apartment.
She's lived in that neighborhood for 13 years.
It's closed.
It's
Ma'am, you
closed.
can't, the
Okay.
public hearing's closed, so you.
Sorry.
So, I mean, but that said, I mean, and.
But all of that was, there was a lot of speculation in that. I mean, what was before us was whether Mr. Herbert erred in his assessment of it or not, and it wasn't what kind of permit he had, or was it his actual residence. None of that was before us. Factually speaking, there's no difference here. There was just speculation and accusation, but nothing was ever really proven. And other cases were brought in, property owned that had another permit, and it was alleged that there was a problem with that, and it turns out it wasn't even him, it was the prior owner. So, I mean, factually, what's the difference?
Well, I think factually, maybe not factually, but I don't see this case as different than the other ones that we gave a 3-month penalty to. Just pure ignorance, and I'm sorry, I don't mean that in a rude way. But it seems very similar to the other ones where it's owner occupied and it was taken down, and 5 reservations were canceled, and there's no noise complaints. So it just seems like all the other ones we hear.
Does anyone have a motion?
I guess then I'll move to that the zoning administrator didn't err, and that the applicant would be eligible for the permit on, I think, November 29th. I don't remember the exact dates, but it was somewhere at the end of August where
Well, the date's important, so what is it?
Well, was it, maybe Mr. Osborne can tell us.
Mr.
Okay, here's the date of the application is August 28th, so I was off by a day.
Okay. November 28th.
That's fine.
Okay. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, 5 to 1. So you'll be eligible to apply again on November 28th.
Okay.
The next case to be presented to the board is 2017-264 involving the property at 3517 Donna K. Drive in Council District Number 26. Marcy Angevine is the appellant. I apologize if I mispronounced your last name. I apologize. This is a short-term rental permit appeal. The appellant operated prior to obtaining the legally required permit. Property shown here on the zoning map gives you some idea of where it's located relative to the other residential structures in that neighborhood, and the face of the property from an older assessor's website photo. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 264? Seeing no one, the appellant will have 10 minutes to make the desired presentation to the board. Please introduce yourself by name and address.
I'm Marcy Angevine. I live at 3517 Donna K. Drive in Nashville.
Can you wait a second until the chairman comes back?
My story is not much different, really, than many of the other folks that have spoken today. I decided to list my property on the Airbnb website and instantly got people booking my extra bedroom. And so it wasn't until after that I started getting listings that I realized I needed a permit. And to speak about the information about needing a permit in Nashville is actually on the Airbnb website, but it's very difficult to find. I went on the website last night actually to just review it.
It's under like frequently asked questions, like buried somewhere?
Is it? I had to go into the host help section, and then I just entered permit. It's not like readily available. You have to really search for it. So I just wanted to mention that. So I started getting listings right away, and I got very busy, and then realized I needed a permit. And then unfortunately, I had some medical issues this summer, which slowed down my ability to actually apply for the permit. And I did bring copies of my medical bills to show you. I was on and off crutches and had a cane until mid-August, from June 1st. And so I had a very difficult time getting smoke detectors installed in my house, talking to my neighbors. I also haven't lived there very long, and so actually, in speaking to my neighbors, it was like the first time I had ever really had a conversation with some of them at all. So, I mean, which is a good thing. I'm glad that I had to do that, but so again, there were basically my medical issues. I have arthritis in my knees, and I had a very bad kind of attack in the beginning of June, which put me on crutches and a cane for the majority of the summer. And so I did not apply for my permit until the end of August. And I had been at the same time as when I was hosting people, even through the medical issues that I was having, because, and so now I have medical bills to pay that I'd like to use my Airbnb income to pay. So I only host 2 people at a time. And I did follow the rules. As soon as I was denied the permit at the end of August, I immediately took my listing down and canceled my reservations that I had upcoming. I only had 2 reservations, but one was for the entire month of October. So I canceled both of those, and I still have my listing hidden.
So do you only rent 1 bedroom in your home, is that right?
That's right, and I live there.
And so do you ever rent your home when you're not there?
No, I haven't so far.
Because it's 1 bedroom in your home, and so you only rent your 1 bedroom.
That's right.
Because I think I had written down in my notes, you had, I think, 20 reviews, something like that. You rent 1 bedroom, $49 a night. It implied that you were always there, just.
Yeah, I live there full time, and I haven't really, I haven't been away at all since I started hosting May 1st, but I don't plan on having anyone there when I'm not there.
Okay.
Can you remind us again, did you get one of those stop work orders?
No, actually, I didn't.
If I could join in on that on behalf of staff, I confirmed with property standards. This was never reported to property standards, never inspected. It's just one where the property owner figured out that she needed the permit and so initiated the process herself.
So
Thank you for doing that.
What was the aha moment? How'd you figure out that there are laws?
Well, I mean, I had heard about kind of the, in the news, the kind of debates going on about Airbnb and permits. And so I searched through the website on Airbnb, and I did find the information. But like I said, you really have to kind of search for it. It's not something that just pops up. And so, I started to educate myself about the process. So.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Do you have anything else to add?
My neighborhood, there are no bars in my neighborhood. There's nowhere you could really walk to. I'm just doing this to supplement my income and to pay off some debt. So it's not really a career for me. It's just something a solution really for me to pay some bills. That's really it.
Okay, so we have an email from your councilman, Jeremy Elrod, an email. It says, I oppose this appeal. We have to enforce the STRP registration, and operating one without a permit is unacceptable. I urge the BZA to deny the applicant an STR permit. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to close the public hearing. Discussion.
I think that the case here is self-reporting, owner-occupied, rents one bedroom out of the home, doesn't rent the whole home. All of the evidence that is in the reviews support that. And, I think the fact, frankly, that it was self-reported, I'm happy to make a motion that the applicant did rent prior to receiving a permit, so that the zoning administrator is upheld. But in this specific case, because of the self-reporting, we'll make the motion that the applicant is eligible for a permit tomorrow.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. So what we ruled was you are eligible to apply tomorrow. That would mean you have a permit, that you're just eligible to apply. So
Great.
good luck. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
John Michael.
Mr. Chairman, an announcement. Case number 2017-265, a short-term rental permit case involving the property at 96 North 8th Street, is one that will be deferred to our next meeting on October 19th at the request of the appellant. Again, that's case number 265, deferred until next meeting, October 19th, at the request of the appellant.
Okay.
The next case to be presented to the board then is 2017-266, an item A appeal involving a short-term rental permit. Jordan Zellhart is the appellant and owner of the property located at 107 Creighton Avenue in Council District Number 6. The applicant operated prior to obtaining the legally required short-term rental permit for the property shown here on the zoning map, and shown more clearly here, obviously, on the face of the property photograph from the assessor's office. If Jordan Zellhart would come forward at this time to make the desired presentation, is there anyone here in opposition to case number 266? Seeing no one, you'll have 10 minutes to make the desired presentation of the board. Please introduce yourself by name and address.
Thank you. My name is Jordan Zellhart, and I'm at 107 Creighton Avenue over in East Nashville. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak before you. You're going to hear a lot of similar comments from what you've heard previously. I, first and foremost, would like to apologize for breaking the rules and not following rules and regulations. I was not aware that you had to have a permit to operate a short-term rental. I bought the house at the end of March, and I'm a first-time home buyer. This is the first house that I've owned. I've always rented before, long-term rentals. And so I bought the house at the end of March, and then in May, the 22nd of May, I got engaged. And so I was talking to my fiance, and we were trying to think of a way to make some extra income to help pay for the wedding that was coming up next year. And so we had used Airbnb before to stay at places, never hosted, but to stay in other cities. And so we thought, well, we could list this area, I could list this house, and then while we're out of town, or if we're going visiting family, we can have our listing up and rent it out. So I listed on May 28th. I received a stop work order on July 16th, and it was at that time that I realized that that there was something going wrong, and basically what I had done or been doing was wrong. So I immediately contacted the number that was on the form and educated myself, asked a bunch of questions, asked people who lived in the area, reached out to friends, and come to find out I had a lot of friends who were operating short-term rentals without a permit. And so I told them eventually what I found out, and that was that there were steps you had to take to obtain a permit for a type 1 owner-occupied. So as soon as I got the stop work order, I immediately deactivated my account, And I worked with Robert Osborne to take the necessary steps to file for a BZA appeal, and that's how I wound up here. And so with that, I again apologize for not making myself educated on the rules and regulations, and yeah.
Okay, questions for the applicant?
Your neighbor sent a note saying you've had a couple of rowdy, or at least one rowdy group of folks. Have you talked to your neighbor, Mr. Reardon?
They moved in, I think, if I'm correct, I think it's the neighbor directly to my left. I think they moved in a month after I moved in. And so I have good communication and contact with all of my neighbors around me. So I was never aware that there was ever a problem or issue.
And how many times did you rent?
It was 4 or 5. I think it was about 4.
Yeah, you only have 3 reviews.
3, yeah, okay.
Any other questions for the applicant? And I'll say this in front of our council people. We've been doing this over a year now. I don't think anyone's apologized for doing this before, so thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
You may have said it, and we're all very tired. I hope you understand. You said that what happened when you got the stop work order? Did you take down the site?
Yeah, I immediately inactivated the site and contacted the number that was on the stop work order.
Any other questions? Okay, anything else to add? Oh, we're going to hear from Mr. Osborne, yes. So how do we hear about this, and did you have any noise complaints or anything?
I don't believe we had any noise complaints on this one. I received a complaint on July 11th that there was an unpermitted short-term rental at this property. Found it on Airbnb, posted my stop work order on 7/14. Was contacted by Mr. Zellhart shortly thereafter.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Osborne? Thank you. We're going to close the public hearing. Discussion.
I mean, I think that the stop work order, it does sound like very much like the other cases that we have heard, that we have made a motion for 3 months at the point of the stop work order.
How does this compare to the last case that got nothing?
The last case that got nothing, self-reported.
Self-reported.
And frankly, in this case, since it was the stop work order was on 7/14, it takes it to 10/14, which is 9 days from now and not 39 days from now. So,
do you want to make a motion?
So again, not to get us too rigidly falling into specific categories, because I know we're still evolving toward that. But I will make a motion that this applicant did. That in favor of the zoning administrator, the applicant did rent prior, and as a result of renting prior, then he will be eligible to apply for a permit on the 14th of October.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion?
Yes. I didn't get to say this earlier, but it is a little disturbing to have the letter from Mr. Reardon, and I hope the applicant will consider that letter. Do you need a copy of the letter?
I would, please.
Okay, I'll give you mine.
Thank you.
And, try to avoid these things in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. So, any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Did you vote yes? Yes. Okay. Passes 4-0. So you will be eligible to reapply, what date? October 14th. Thank you. So,
Mr. Chairman, the final case to be heard by the board today is case 2017-267. The appellant is Joel Rogers, also the owner of the property located at 611 Wilson Boulevard in Council District Number 24. The request is for a change in legally non-conforming structure in the RS 15 zoning district for construction of an addition now built at the rear of the residence. The applicable section of code is 17.40.660, although cited as 180 in the docket, it's 660, but actually deals with legally non-conforming structures. We'll draw your attention to section C in particular. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 267? Seeing no one, the appellants will have the opportunity to make a 10-minute presentation to the board in support of their request for this item D appeal. As you'll see from the presentation here, the zoning map demonstrates that this is right at the intersection of Wilson Boulevard and Westmont Avenue. The aerial shows more clearly the corner lot, particularly in relation to the other houses nearby. The site plan submitted gives an idea of the proximity of the addition to the property line. And then from my recent site visit, the proper display of the notice sign for the upcoming BZA hearing, the structure as it existed before the addition, the views up and down the streets where they sit at the corner, and a rear view of the property. Please introduce yourself by name and address and make the desired presentation.
You've had a long afternoon. My name is Christopher Deal. I live at 220.
Please press the button so we could hear you on the Metro Nashville network. And
That's very high tech. No wonder everyone sits down.
yeah.
My name is Christopher Deal. I am representing the family designer. I live at 220 25th Avenue North in Nashville, 37203. Thank you very much. You've had a long afternoon. We can make this, I think, quick. Working on a home addition for a modest home in this Green Hills neighborhood. It had been recommended that we get a survey. That had not happened. We made the miscorrect or incorrect assumption that if we abide by the existing boundaries of that small home, we'd be fine. That turned out not to be true when we found out on August 22nd when we received a stop work order of construction. We're about 65%, 70% finished with the addition at that point. The addition is a small addition to about a 2,700 square foot house. So we did get a survey. We found that the existing house was 8.8 feet away from the property line within a 10-foot setback. The addition is a little more than that. It's an 8.9 feet away from the property line. We're asking for an appeal for this non-conforming structure, given that it's an addition and a small addition to an existing house. I also brought along photographs that were taken last Sunday. There was a fence that was discovered, portion of was over the property line. That has since been removed. I have photographs of that I can pass around a copy for everyone. And I have the family with me, Joel Rogers and his wife, Erica Murdoch, and their 2 kids. Thank you.
And you brought a lot of letters of support, and I think there was only one written letter of opposition, which didn't, based on the address, didn't seem to be the adjacent neighbor. It seemed to be someone maybe across the street. The adjacent neighbor, the one that's closest to that property line, do you have any idea how, are they part of the support group, or have you talked to that person?
I have spoken to that person. The clients have also spoken to that person. And to my knowledge, she is not in support.
You really are just building the house.
I'm here in attendance. I'm the homeowner next door, and I'm actually here in support.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, please come forward, and we'll talk to you on the record and with the microphone. So please press the button and identify your name and your address and why you're here.
Hi, my name is Amy Shepard. My husband and I own the home at 609 Wilson Boulevard South. We are the next door neighbors to the Rogers family, and my daughter and I are here in support of the Rogers.
Wonderful, thank you.
Are you on the side of where the addition is, or the other side?
We are, if you look at the picture above, you can kind of see our detached garage. We're the only property owners that share a property like a.
Okay, that's okay. I didn't notice it was a corner lot.
The one with the detached garage.
Yeah, 609. Is it in this picture?
Yes, the one on the right
side. The other side of the
string.
Nice.
Good.
And did you all talk to the council person at all? Do you know?
I did.
Could you hit
I'm
the?
sorry. I called her maybe a couple weeks ago.
Please identify yourself. For
I'm sorry. I'm Erica Rogers. And she was very nice, and I told her, that we just made a simple mistake, and we're going to try to do as well as we can on making it right. And I went around and getting signatures.
All right, thank you.
Anything else to add? Anything else to add? Any other questions of the applicants? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Thanks for being here through our entire meeting. Discussion.
Who's the baby?
This is Ella.
Yeah.
She's 4 months old.
Oh, I hope you've registered Ella for Books from Birth, have you? Great program, the Imagination Library. We love it. Well, discussion.
Yeah, I think this is a no-brainer. It's within the footprint of the existing house. The neighbors and the immediate neighbors and most of the neighbors, appear to support it. And the council person certainly hadn't gone on record, but it was contacted, and certainly believe if there was an issue, we would have heard. So I'm happy to. And it's a minor variance. It's a foot, less than a foot and a half. So I'm happy to make a motion that we approve the change in legal nonconforming. What are we doing? We're requesting a change. So we're requesting a change in the legal. I mean, on a normal, in a conforming home, we just approve a variance, but.
I understand the motion to be an approval of the item D appeal.
I will make a motion to approve the item D appeal for the variance that, for this non-conforming use of this property as presented, because, all right.
Okay, motion's been made and properly seconded. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Good luck. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you all soon. That's it.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.